Welcome to Dom's Corner, everybody. I am your host, Dom Martino. I'm sitting here once again with Adam Leach. Last week we did Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace, and this week we are going to dive into, yeah, you guessed it, Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. Adam, how you doing today?
I am A-OK.
Awesome. Are you ready to talk about this movie?
Oh, boy, am I.
Wonderful. I
took notes this time.
Amazing. I'm excited to hear them. I didn't get to do that. I had to rush and watch this really quick last night, just due to time. So I didn't really I was pretty tired, but I think I got a pretty good grasp on it. You might have to help me out in some areas, so I'm really happy you took some notes. So before we do start this review, I do want something that's important to me is that our viewers, the viewers, they have to know that we're listening, and we did see some participation in the live chat last time, and I'm very thrilled about that. I do want to first of all thank the people that did participate in the chat for participating. So I'm gonna give I'm gonna read off one of the top comments from last week, and so this is coming from a viewer named 3Eb Jumper. Says Jar Jar was the comedy relief. You just have to keep that in mind. So what I appreciate you commenting and participate in the chat. What I'm gonna say to that is, yeah, I mean, I think we mentioned, that as a child, that essentially, Jar Jar, was the comic relief, and we understand that, and we understand that was the intent, but it doesn't mean that it necessarily is going to work for us as adults. So, that's just something that you got to keep in mind, 3Head Jumper. But, that's, but I do appreciate you commenting and bringing that in. Adam, do you have anything to say about that?
I mean, he's comedic relief sometimes, but, it's situational. When it's too much, it's just a distraction. As a kid, I enjoyed him. As an adult, I'm like, what is this guy doing here?
Yeah, I mean, essentially. I mean, it's, it's one of those things, but
they did tone it down with episode 2, though.
Yeah. Hey, man, the fact that you like him, though, is the important part, and, don't let anybody tell you that, he is a comic relief. If you find him funny, that's the important part. So I
hey man, if you want to hang a Jar Jar poster in your bathroom or your bedroom or whatever, man, don't let anybody tell you that you can't. That's exactly. All you, baby.
Exactly. Hell yeah. So yeah, so we're going to
I just lost your video, Dom.
What's that?
I was losing your video.
Oh, I was trying to fix something real quick, so sorry about that. Yeah, anyway, so, excuse me, am I back up now on your screen?
Yeah, you're up. You're just lagging pretty bad.
Ah, great. All right, so I'm going to keep trying to fix that while we talk about this movie. So, Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones, Adam and I have both revisited this, and Adam, I'm gonna let you start on your overall thoughts about this film going back into it.
Well, Dom, it's bad. It's pretty bad. It was even worse than I thought it was last time because I was really paying attention this time.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I want to start from the very, very top.
Go ahead.
And I'm going to talk about the crawl, even the credit crawl. So we see even in the credit crawl, I got a kick out of it. It said several thousand solar systems were leaving the Republic. And I was just thinking about the sheer number of solar systems that's not just planets. That's like entire solar systems. Like, how are they representing all of these people in the Senate? Like, how do they even have that much room? Like, we're talking hundreds of thousands or millions of planets. And so it's not just a couple people that are angry. We're talking about thousands of entire solar systems are trying to leave the Republic. That's a pretty big issue.
Right. I can't disagree with you. I mean, um, listen, man. I gotta go over my overall thoughts on this, and here's I'm gonna preface this with the listen, I haven't seen this in a little while. I will say at one point this was absolutely my personal least favorite Star Wars film. So there's that. But I gotta tell you, man, this might surprise you just a tad bit. Is I don't love this movie or anything, but I gotta tell you, after rewatching it, I found a lot more that I liked about this. And
Interesting.
yeah, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was just the mood I was in or anything else. But we'll get into all of it. But I did find a lot more that I enjoyed this time around, and we'll get into it as we kind of go through the review here. And I'm gonna be interested to see what our individual opinions are on each of the things that happen in the movie. So I'm gonna let you kind of start here. So we were talking about excuse me, we were talking about just right off the get-go. Listen, here's the thing. You got the Star Wars opening crawl, and we were kind of criticizing the Phantom Menace about its opening crawl, right? To where it was kind of non-detail oriented, it might be the right way to put it, delicately.
They came in hot.
They did, and it just all kind of starts, and they don't really tell you much, but and of course the music always gives me chills anyway. But this opening crawl, one of the things I noticed, and this might be a problem for some people, but it did seem like George Lucas was really given a lot more detail on what was going on at the beginning. So I'm going to credit the movie for that. The other thing I'm going to say is the beginning of this movie is, once again, and this isn't something I'm going to praise about it, it feels like, even though we know a little bit more about what's going on, the beginning of the movie still feels very abrupt with the assassination attempt. It's exciting, but there's something about it that still felt very abrupt. But the other thing I got to say about the beginning of this one, and I think I kind of spoke about this a little bit on the Phantom Menace one as well, is that the look of Attack of the Clones is far better than the look of Phantom Menace. So I'll praise that right from the get-go. But then, right after the assassination attempt, we're moving into the Palpatine's office sequence, which I'm not a big fan of. If you look at the background in Palpatine's office, you see all the ships kind of flying by, and if you notice, it looks like it's just all like a video playing on the same loop. Like I think I saw like the same ship fly by the office like multiple times. So there's that. So I'm not a huge fan of that myself necessarily, but anyway, so let's just focusing in on the assassination attempt and the Palpatine's office with the council. How do you feel about all this just by itself?
Yeah, I'm gonna agree with you on the CGI thing real quick. The CGI it feels a little better for some reason, but there are also times where it's like, wow, that is strikingly awful.
Yeah.
And then I was gonna say there was a part that made me laugh in the opening crawl when it was talking about the solar systems leaving the Republic, and it said this makes it difficult for the Jedi Knights to maintain peace and order in the galaxy. And I'm like, and by peace and order you mean this makes it really difficult for them to send Jedi to kill people to keep them in line. Peace and order. Listen, if too many people rebel, we don't have enough Jedi to kill you.
Yeah. I I see your point, and I definitely agree that this is one of the parts where I have a gripe with the movie. Like this, I said I had things I liked, and this definitely wasn't one of them. And I don't know what was up with this, but I don't know if you noticed, we were always talking about crazy old George's directing when he was doing this kind of stuff, and his choices of camera angles and things of that nature. But it seemed like when they were all talking in Palpatine's office, that every time somebody said something, George Lucas just felt felt obligated to take the camera and do this like real quick zooming in shot on them, to where it was like, it just felt like it was real. I don't know what it is. It's not even like a technique anybody uses. It doesn't feel like anything that's unique or cool or edgy. It's just this really stupid ass we're gonna zoom in on their faces shots real quick, and then we're gonna cut away real quick. And that's another thing that I really just, it bothers me. It's a distraction right here at the beginning. But then okay, so like one of the things I like here though is, so Palpatine, he tells Padme, we're gonna have, we're gonna call in some of your old buddies. I like the music cues that come in. Well, he's specifically, I think here, I don't think he really mentions Anakin's tagging along, but it was just kind of a given. But he kind of talks about that Obi-Wan's gonna come and watch over you. And then I like John Williams' little music cue. It actually made me like really happy. It's like, yeah, Obi-Wan's back, or he's coming back into this. But then we get the elevator scene, which is filled with terrible acting from Hayden Christensen. And there's that going on. And then they come into the they come in, they sit down with Padme. Jar Jar gets excited. Listen,
Jar Jar looks terrible in the first scene he's in, by the way. He looks really CGI. Almost gooey looking.
Yeah, I agree. Jar Jar is not good looking in this part, but what I actually enjoy in this little scene is, I think that the dialogue was improved ever so slightly. I didn't find Jar Jar's dialogue to be as bad. Like, it was consistent with what he was doing in the first film, at least, but he wasn't going for the joke every 2 seconds. That's something I enjoyed. Like
it was a little more grown up feeling. It was like, now he's got like, it's like when the kid leaves the house and they have a job and they start to mature. Like, this is Jar Jar. Jar Jar's a working man now. He's not telling jokes all the time anymore.
Yeah, but then
he slides one in every now and then, but
yeah, then he fucks everything up, but we'll get into that a little later. But it was like giving a child a it was like the child was getting a job now, but it was almost like giving a child a fucking Corvette or something, like just fucking
or like a belt-fed machine gun. Here, 8-year-old, have this belt-fed machine gun. I'll even teach you how to use it.
That's a better way to put it, to be honest with you.
I'm not going to tell you where not to point it, but I'm going to teach you how to use it.
Yeah, exactly. But he does, at least in the first sequence, he's a little more mature. But then you got Anakin, who's maturity level has gone down even from where he left off with the Phantom Menace. But I did enjoy the abrupt little part. Like, some of the dialogue here is actually pretty good when they're all kind of talking, and I actually like when Obi-Wan's like, I think it was kind of the subtlety of the moment, but it's the one line in this movie that I'm going to give Hayden Christensen a little bit of credit on, which it's not going to happen often here, folks. But I mean, this part I will, because Obi-Wan was talking, and Anakin was like, the abrupt interruption of the why, you know what I mean? And like the way that like like
I actually wrote that down.
I thought it was good. I thought it was good, but you give your opinion in a second.
I felt the opposite.
Really?
I felt the opposite.
Just go ahead.
I literally wrote I wrote down in my notes specifically, Anakin is acting like a child. He's literally like, Obi-Wan is like, will you follow my lead? And Anakin is like, why?
I don't know. It's the one time in the movie it worked for me. Like that child,
And not to mention that they're in a room of professionals. It's like the most unprofessional thing to do, like especially being a Jedi, like to sit and argue with the guy that's training you, like in front of all these people. They're giving you this assignment and you're going to sit there and you're going to argue with them.
I don't know. I liked it here. I liked it because it showed that, you know, to me, it showed that he is still the trainee. He's not 100% grown up. So I'm okay with it in the beginning of this movie. It got annoying throughout the immaturity. And it was like when you figure out that every line that he says is going to be this immature tantrum or whatever he does throughout this movie, it gets annoying. I could agree, but in this particular moment, I didn't mind it because it was kind of this thing of like, Obi-Wan had to come in and be the teacher. It was disrespectful to do, but I also think that was kind of the idea. I hope what George was going for in this moment, and I think it really worked in its execution, that line. But but what did you? So the one thing, this is the other thing I'm going to give Hayden Christensen credit on. So they're watching, and I would give Hayden Christensen credit on this in every movie or every Star Wars film that he's done. Is that, they're watching over Padme and then they sense something, and no, Hayden Christensen's acting is very bad here for the most part. But what is good about him is his physical acting. The stunt work is very good. Like when he has to go into the bedroom with the saber and then cut the whatever that fucking thing was off of
Ballsy
Padme.
Move.
It was ballsy, but it was good stunt work on his part. Like if I had to say one good thing about Hayden Christensen in this movie, he dedicated himself to the stunt work. He's a good physical actor, and at least as far as the stunts go, and it was all caught on camera. Like he did that entire thing, and so I got to give him credit there. But the aspect I like about this, and I think that this is something that helped me to appreciate this movie more, is we kind of dive into the bounty hunters. We dive into the criminal underground on Coruscant. Like I actually love all that and I think a lot of that is because we've had Mandalorian since then. And I think Mandalorian just took some of those ideas and just kind of elevated it, about bounty hunters, criminal underground, things like that. So I actually really dug seeing, something that we saw in Mandalorian, but, in a much bigger scale in a city like Coruscant, you know what I mean? So, anyway, so they go through the bar, and I actually, one of my favorite lines here, is when, Obi-Wan sends Anakin out to look for the bounty hunter, right? But then Anakin's like, "Where are you going, Master?" And Obi-Wan's like, "For a drink."
To get a drink.
Anyway,
the guy at the bar, "You want to buy some?"
Oh man, that's amazing. Yeah, and it was very consistent.
And he's like, "You want to go home and rethink your life?" It's
exactly.
Like, that was pretty solid. That was one of the funnier moments of this movie,
and it was consistent with his character in the originals too. That's the other thing that made it work. And Ewan McGregor is so good in this movie. He is the highlight of this movie. And what's interesting is we were talking about how maybe Obi-Wan could have been so much better in the Phantom Menace, right? There could have been so much more for him outside of the fact that he did that Darth Maul fight. Outside of that, there could have been so much more to Obi-Wan. I think Obi-Wan really works in this movie from the get-go because he now has a clear direction when we start. We understand what his character's purpose is in this movie. That's the thing. We understand it from the get-go. He is there to train Anakin. You know what I mean? He is taking on a task that he wouldn't have done if it wasn't for his previous master, if it wasn't his previous master's last dying wish. So you understand his position in this film, and I actually think Ewan McGregor does a great job playing that personality. But anyway, what do you think of all the underground stuff, in Coruscant, the bedroom sequence with Anakin? And go ahead, you took notes, so I'm going to let you ramble. Go ahead.
I'm gonna rewind just a little bit.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Because
I want to hear all your opinions. Yeah.
The first interaction between Padme and Anakin made me laugh so much. I mean, it always does, because man, Anakin is, bless his soul, he's so creepy.
Yes.
He's so creepy.
I can't disagree.
She says, "You've grown," and
oh, I hate that.
And what
that
does he say? What does he say? He goes, "So have you." And then there's a little pause. "More beautiful, I mean."
Yo, that's terrible.
Like, oh.
That's terrible.
Like, that's what you're gonna lead with? You haven't seen this girl in 10 years, and that's what you're gonna lead with? "You've grown more beautiful, I mean."
Yeah.
I mean, and then she says, "You'll always be the little boy on Tatooine to me," and I was like, burn. It's like she totally just reduced him to always being a child in her mind.
Yeah, thank you for reminding me of that, though, because I forgot that they had like a one-on-one interaction there. And yes, anytime Anakin and Padme, anytime Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman have to have what is so-called chemistry in this film, which is certainly not present whatsoever, it's bad. It sucks. I mean, I'm going to give you that.
Big
it's
yikes
awful.
From me.
It's cringe, Anakin, or the way that Hayden Christensen plays Anakin, most particularly in the scenes that he is in with Natalie Portman. It's cringe. He is creepy. And you're right. I thank you for taking that note, because I totally forgot about their one-on-one interaction in that moment. And it's bad.
Anakin, people like Anakin, they're the reason that therapy exists, and also the reason why restraining orders are necessary. I mean, this guy, like, seriously, red flags would be going off all over in my head if I were Padme. And he's like this little emo kid that's holding on to his childhood boy fantasies. Like, seriously, he's talking to Obi-Wan in the elevator, and he's talking about, like, "I've thought about her every day, like I can't stop thinking about her." And it's like, really? You haven't seen her in 10 years? You were like, what, 10, 12 when you first saw her?
Right.
And you've been thinking about her every day for 10 years?
Agreed.
That's like a weird childhood fantasy. Like, he's like I said, he is the reason why therapy exists and why people need to go to therapy. If you're watching this,
yeah,
therapy is a good thing, especially if you're anything like Anakin Skywalker. You need to go to therapy. I'm telling you. And the next thing that I thought was funny was he said, "She covered the cameras. I don't think she liked me watching her."
Yeah.
And I'm like, I wouldn't want you watching me either. After the kind of eyes that you're giving me and the kind of stuff that you're telling me. I haven't seen you in 10 years and you're obsessed. Like, yeah, no duh. She's probably got a lawyer in there. She's probably filing a restraining order as they speak.
The way Anakin is written in this movie is not good. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I will say the one thing, though, on Natalie Portman's end, it does feel like she is trying in this movie. Like Phantom Menace, it just felt like there was no trying with her. She was speaking all robotic most of the time. Now I understand she was a young actor at the time, but like still, like, she is actually really trying here, and like it's like she just cannot make it through a scene with Hayden Christensen smoothly. But she is trying. She's given an effort. So I gotta hand it to her. I mean, she's trying at least this time. It didn't feel like she was trying much with the last one.
Something I thought of this time was that, like, you and I have talked about before, like the issues between their chemistry on screen.
Yeah.
But the real problem is, I mean, other than the pacing of this film, because it's paced just terribly, really bad, and you feel like the building of a love interest is crammed in. There
Uh-huh.
isn't, that's why the chemistry is so
I
bad,
agree.
because they're trying to cram in that they're falling in love, and they're doing it in little itty bitty segments, and it feels so forced, it feels so
I
creepy.
agree.
And I thought the issue is Padme feels like, it feels like she feels like a mother figure to
Yeah.
Anakin. The kind of stuff that she says to him, like she consoles him when he's mad and
Oh
he throws
yeah.
hissy
Oh
fits.
yeah. Yeah.
He clearly, and I'm dead serious about the therapy thing. Like if this were real life, he would need to be in therapy. He has mommy issues, like big time. Like his mom was not present, and he has some really big emotional issues, and he almost latches onto her and throws fits to her like she's a mother figure, and she kind of consoles him and talks to him like that. So that's why it's really weird when they finally are supposed to be in love. I'm like, it doesn't feel right. It feels weird.
Yeah. I can't disagree. And, something else that you were talking about, the pacing. That's something I wanted to make sure I definitely mentioned here is, we get better cinematography, better CGI in this movie. This movie actually feels like it does have a target demographic, and I actually do feel that George Lucas in this one was definitely going for the adults. And which might be inconsistent with what he says it's for, but this movie at least feels like it's going for a target demographic, and this movie feels like it has direction at the very least, which Phantom Menace just did not have. It was absent of. However, all this is sacrificed for the super duper poor pacing that you were talking about, and it doesn't help. We sacrifice super poor pacing. We sacrifice or I'm sorry, we sacrifice good pacing. That's what I meant to say. We sacrifice bad act or good acting. We sacrifice a really amazing script. Although there's some scripted moments in here that I like, which we'll get into. But anyway, yeah,
The pace of this film is like, I can't talk badly enough about the pacing. That is
yeah,
like one of the biggest issues. Look, this trilogy should not have been a trilogy. It should have been longer. There is so much missing stuff. There are so many emotions and relationships that need more time to build organically. There's too many times where a scene goes on for like less than a minute, and they cram in emotion, and then they do a screen wipe, and then we're across the galaxy, and then we learn something, and then screen wipe, and then we're across the galaxy, and then I love you, screen wipe, and we're across the galaxy. Then they're getting married, screen wipe. It's like, whoa, I've got whiplash. You're sending me all across the universe.
right.
And it's just, this trilogy could have easily been 4, maybe even 5 movies. Easily. So easily.
Not if the Phantom Menace was done differently.
Yeah, how do you mean?
Well, I mean, if you start setting these up a little bit better in the Phantom Menace, some of this stuff,
Right.
then I feel like
but
maybe
part of the
wouldn't
problem with the Phantom Menace was that we said it needed to be extended or even put into 2 movies.
right. But if you,
Is that
I'm saying if you
there was a lead up
with that
to
story.
it. There was the credit roll, or not the credit, but the crawl at the beginning, how we were talking about how it feels like it's setting you up with all this information that you feel like you should know already, that it jumps in the middle to a whole bunch of drama. My
Right.
personal opinion, I would have loved if there was a movie before the Phantom Menace that set up better for the Phantom Menace, and maybe even took some of the stuff from the Phantom Menace with it, and then stretched the actual Phantom Menace out more so that we would have less screen wipe. And then I would have extended Attack of the Clones too, because there is a lot of information that's missing. There are a lot of relationships that need to be explained and built. Like, I start thinking about, like, how did Palpatine and Anakin's relationship start? All of a sudden they're buddy, and you're like, wait a second, how do they even know each other? It's there, things like that, and things like how in one scene Padme's treating Anakin like he's just a boy, and then all of a sudden she's confessing her love for him, and then they're getting married, and you're like, easy there. How did we get here?
Yeah, I mean, listen, okay. I'm a big subscriber to the idea of a problem with the movie is all, you know, it's always on that individual movie, regardless if it's a second movie in a trilogy, third movie in a trilogy, first movie in a trilogy. So the problems with Attack of the Clones, which is what we're talking about here, is on Attack of the Clones. Like you have to,
Right.
but as a fan, as just from a pure fan standpoint, let's say that you didn't start with this Qui-Gon, Obi-Wan, politics, and Phantom Menace, and you started a whole other story with where you just started with Obi-Wan and Anakin, not abruptly, not so abruptly as he did Qui-Gon and and Obi-Wan, but just that's where our story started, was with those two, and that was the focus. Then he wants to tell this Attack of the Clones story. It wouldn't have felt like everything was as crammed into Attack of the Clones. That's kind of what I was getting at.
I still have a different opinion on that. I still feel the same about it. My problems with the Phantom Menace are separate. They are a separate thing. I do think the Phantom Menace should have been either been a 3.5 hour movie, or it should have been 2 movies, and that's a separate opinion.
Oh, if you're gonna go with that story, yes. If you're going with the story that he wanted to tell, then definitely expand that movie. But go ahead. Sorry.
I think episode 2, there is no way around this for me. I think it should have been 2 movies. It should have been. There's no debating in my mind that it should have been. I almost think the pacing and the buildup is even worse than the first one, because like I said, that is part of the reason why Anakin and Padme's relationship does not feel authentic, is because they reduced it to these short scenes where they don't have time to build chemistry. It's almost like George Lucas is just like cramming a bunch of stuff in, like, hey, remember, they're gonna fall in love, screen wipe, and then you learn something else, and then, oh, hey, remember, they care about each other, they're falling in love, screen wipe. And it doesn't feel organic. It feels like he's constantly shoving it in your face, and you're like, but I don't believe it.
Right.
And that's just one thing. That's just one example of what I'm talking about. Their love interest alone could have been their time on screen together could have been doubled easily to even put a dent in building chemistry.
Yeah.
But that was a big issue for me for why it felt so authentic, other than Anakin just feeling really immature and his emotional, I won't say his emotional acting, because I will say Hayden Christensen does some really good emotional acting later on. But in terms of his acting as the emotion of love, when he's conveying love for her, it doesn't feel authentic. It feels forced. It feels very weird. It feels like it's bad acting. And like I said, part of it does have to do with the script, but I don't, it's when he is not acting like a complete psycho who has an anger problem, which is what he does really good at. When he's not acting like that, he's like he's just like this stoic black and white figure, like, this is how I feel. I love you, but I care about you so much. Can't you see? I can't stop thinking about you all the time. Right. Sand, it gets everywhere.
Right. I can't entirely disagree with that sentiment. I mean, because
I just feel some type of way about those two.
No, and it's fine. Like, I think that this is the biggest downfall of the movie, was putting these two in a movie together. Because, like I said, the chemistry is not present, and if you're going to sell a love story, I'm okay with that, because I actually think that romance is a lot of the foundation that Star Wars is built on. Because it's supposed to be a fairy tale, and I understand that, and I think that's an important element to have. And if that George wants to do that, then wonderful. But he had to have seen that there was no chemistry here. And that, at the end of the day, that's on George Lucas. I'm sorry, because he should have done chemistry tests, and he probably didn't. And he probably thought, hey,
should have studied chemistry more.
well, he probably thought, hey, two handsome people, they're gonna work, And I mean, I don't know. We'll get into all that though. But go ahead.
If real quick, I know we'll do this separately, but if we go back to the originals just real quick and we look at like Han and Leia, for instance, their relationship builds so organically in that they seem to just be revolted by each other.
Mm-hmm.
And as the movies go on, like it progresses in such an organic way where you're like, I think they're starting to like each other. But in this movie, I don't know why he lost that ability to convey that, but it's because it has a similar dynamic. It's not quite the same, but Anakin is obsessed with her. He clearly is in love with her already. He's been thinking about her for 10 years without seeing her, but she doesn't at least the way he conveys it, it doesn't feel like she has had those feelings about him because she knows him as a child. So she looks at him as being a boy. So in her mind, she's like, no, this isn't a thing. So you need time to ease into that. I mean, if Han and Leia needed time to warm up to each other, then Anakin and Padme definitely need time, probably more time for it to feel organic like Han and Leia did.
Well, George it's a weird idea, but he thought he gave it time but it was a good time because they're in such different age groups in the first film as to now they're both adults, so you didn't really get that time. And that's the truth though, is what you were saying about I think maybe even throwing a little tension between the two, and not this creepy weird tension, but kind of the tension that Han and Leia had, where they weren't fans of one another, Han and Leia, in the original trilogy, or even, I'm sorry, let's say the sequel trilogy, because this relationship is the best part of the sequel trilogy. Rey and Kylo, the tension was there. They took 3 movies to build that relationship, and it's the best part of the sequel trilogy. If they had thrown something like that into this relationship, and they clearly did not, I'm sorry, I say they, but really it's George. George did not care to throw any kind of tension.
Freaking George. George was hugging the crack pipe when he was writing these movies. He was on something for sure. He needs to be drug tested.
That's not entirely wrong. But there was no effort to throw any kind of tension between these two other than this weird, creepy tension. Let's talk about Obi-Wan. Let's talk about something good. Let's get into this whole story here because
okay, yeah. I've got other stuff to talk about. That was just a pain point, and
oh, that's fine. That's fine. I get it. Okay. So all right. So Obi-Wan is going to try to figure out this is something I gotta bring up though, because they're talking about the Sith Lord, right? So what's going on with the Sith Lord is so fucking... After watching this movie, I am not a Mace Windu fan, man. Like, I try to convince myself that I am every time I watch these, because there are so many Star Wars fans out there. Mace Windu's badass, and I know I loved that purple lightsaber when I was younger, and I thought he was cool. Mace Windu sucks. He is like the worst Jedi in the entire world, man. And that's not saying Sam Jackson's performance is bad, because he's good in the movie. There's no doubt about it.
There was at least one line where I remember thinking, that line was weird. Like I was like, that sounded scripted. There was one line where I don't remember what.
I think I know what it was. I think it was
normally.
Well, no, it wasn't at the this party's over.
No, I don't think it was that one. Although maybe I wasn't paying attention when he said that, but there was something else. But all in all, I mean, Sam Jackson, I like Sam Jackson
he's
as
great.
An actor. I think he's freaking awesome. I think he's hilarious.
He's awesome, and the presence in the movie is good, but the character Mace Windu sucks. Because when you think about, so Anakin's going, or was it Anakin? No. They were saying that they thought that Count Dooku might be the Sith. Anakin did suggest it, that Count Dooku might be the Sith behind this, right, or whatever. And you got Mace Windu. Count Dooku wouldn't do that. he was a part of the Jedi Order once. It's like, but that's like the conclusion to this movie is the Count Dooku reveal. Tell me how that works.
Yeah.
Like, that is...
Yeah,
it's,
dude. Mace Windu is kind of like that guy hovering over Yoda's shoulder that's like kind of annoying that you're like, I'm sorry, are you in charge? Was I talking to you? I was talking to Yoda. I don't need your opinion.
But I'm conflicted because it's like, I don't want to hate you, dude, because you're Sam Jackson. Like, that was a smart thing. If he was going to give him such a annoying part to cast Sam Jackson, because then Sam Jackson's at least cool and people will like the character just because of that. But he's so dumb. Like, he's dumb. Why wouldn't Count Dooku do that? Why?
You gotta be open to all possibilities when we're talking about the Sith here.
Why?
Like, there's no room for closed-mindedness when we're talking about a giant conspiracy and the Sith's coming back. Like, you got to be open to any and every possibility.
Exactly. Like, okay, so like Anakin trying to convince him that Palpatine was, behind it all. This is inconsistent because when Anakin tries to convince him in Revenge of the Sith, which we'll get to on another show, but when Anakin tries to convince him of Palpatine being behind it all, Mace Windu immediately is like, "Yep, that's got to be right.
Gotta be it. I knew it."
But why is it so impossible that Count Dooku can be behind this shit, behind the assassination? Anyway, so Obi-Wan's going to find this lost planet. And then he goes over to... I feel like you have a lot to say about this, but I'm gonna wait a second to let you talk, because this is...
I have something a little bit backwards that I thought of.
Say it now. Go ahead.
Funny.
Go ahead.
Okay. So I don't remember who posted this, so I can't give credit to them, but it was a TikTok video I happened to see yesterday that just appeared on my timeline, and I was like, oh, that's hilarious. I never thought of that. He was saying in episode 2 of Star Wars, the plot line of trying to kill Padme is hilarious because look at how they attempt to kill Padme. Who wants Padme dead? Palpatine wants Padme dead so that she can't vote against them using the clone army. So Palpatine wants her dead. So who is Palpatine buddy? Who is he kind of, in the Sith ranks with? Well, Dooku. So he's telling Dooku, hey, we got to get rid of Padme. And Dooku's like, well, I don't really want to do it. It's too dangerous for me. So I'm going to get this bounty hunter to do it. So he's like, hey, Mr. Fett, you kill Padme. And he's like, yeah, sure, I'll do that. And who does Jango Fett send but that shapeshifter girl? He's like, nah, I don't feel like doing it. I'm going to send the shapeshifter girl. And then the shapeshifter girl is like, I could do that, but instead I'm going to send this robot to do it and peek in her window. So she sends the robot to do it. The robot peeks into the window and goes, I could do this, but instead I'm going to send these giant worms to do it. So he sends the worms to do it. So it's like there's this long string of assassins that have been hired, and you're like, wow, this is complicated. Nobody wants to do it. Really? We started off with Palpatine wanting Padme dead, and isn't it an insult that in the end, who ended up getting sent but a couple worms?
Adam, I'm glad you brought this back up, actually, because I was going to mention the shapeshifter because I can't stand the shapeshifter character. I actually find that to be very odd and strange and off color for this film. Not going to lie to you. Like, there's a lot of different things in Star Wars, and I'm so glad that the galaxy's expansive and all, but yeah, Jango, it goes right into what you were saying, and I wanted to make sure I made this point and I forgot, so I'm glad you brought it up. You have Jango Fett, who is so fucking cool in this movie, but you use the shapeshifter girl for this action sequence? It just felt off color. But I also wanted to mention the sequence itself, like the action that's going on with Obi-Wan and Anakin flying through, is actually really cool. Like the way Coruscant looks at night is awesome, and George Lucas actually does a good job shooting these moments. Like they looked all in frame, nothing looked like it was going out of frame. So he's learning a little bit of his technical skill here as a director. But I like the moments, maybe not the dialogue within them so much. Well, I did like when Anakin jumped out in Obi-Wan. Oh, I hate it when he does that. I thought that was cool.
I hate it when he does that.
I thought that was funny.
And this scene is a little nostalgic because I had toys for this movie when I was a kid.
Oh, the toys for this film were amazing.
That little yellow vehicle that Anakin picks out, and he's like, "What took so long?" Well, I was trying to pick out the right vehicle.
Right.
Well, I had a little toy of that, and it crashed, and the front end crumbled, and pieces went everywhere.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of toys for this movie. I had a Lego set that had Obi-Wan's ship, and so anyway, that scene specifically is a little nostalgic because I remember that very vividly and remember asking for those toys for Christmas.
Oh yeah, me too, man. I'll never forget walking through Walmart around the time that this movie was coming out with my mother. Because,
so exciting!
Oh my god,
so many
those
toys.
The figures were so cool, man. Like the oh my gosh, they were just awesome. I mean, I don't know. By the way, this movie came out in 2002. Do you remember?
That sounds about right. I don't remember what year. I forgot to look, but it was something like that.
Yeah, do you remember?
The original was what, or number one was what, 99
yeah.
2000?
99. So I think it was like a 3-year gap or something like that. Okay. I remember actually not going to see this one right away because I think this is the first time I was ever introduced to what a review was this movie. I wanted to make sure I mentioned this because this is the first time I started reading reviews for things because when I'll never forget telling my mother, like I want to go see this, and I remember her asking me telling me that she heard that the reviews weren't so good. And I was like, what's a review? Yeah, I remember asking her that.
You don't tell a child that.
Yeah, no kidding. But she told me for some reason.
Mom.
So she explained to me exactly what a review was. And I remember hopping on the internet and like reading some of this stuff, and I was like, yeah, people don't seem to like it. Maybe we can wait on this one a little bit. So I remember we didn't see this one right away, but she did finally convinced her after seeing all these cool toys for this shit. And I finally convinced her, like, Ma, please take me to see this movie. And we went, and I was bored with this one as well as a kid, but
it's like, yeah, Mom, I'm 12 years old. I really care about the cinematography of the movie and the pacing. And yeah, because that's what I'm interested in as a child.
No, but I understood how to read a score, I guess, and like I saw that the score wasn't too good, I think is what it was, and so I was like, that was the first time I think I ever like paid attention to a review on something, and it kind of introduced me to what I like to do now. Anyway, so let's move forward into the Obi-Wan stuff. So Obi-Wan is trying to find the lost planet. I like the well, let's talk about Dex's Diner for a second. There's a lot of people like to give this scene a lot of shit.
Mustache Man.
Yeah. I actually think, yeah, exactly. I think that, you know what, I can see, like, why people would nitpick and make fun of the design of, the characters here, but, like even someone like cooks around the diner, they look funny, but whatever.
I don't really have an issue.
It's a nitpick, right?
Dex. I thought he was cool. He had a big thick mustache. I was like, man, I wish I could grow a mustache like that.
Yeah, definitely. I like the like these two characters, Obi-Wan and Dex, sat down and you could just tell they had history together. It was cool. It was good chemistry. And I know people bitch about this, but for me, I like when Star Wars has things that we can relate to our real world. I don't want the entire galaxy to look like something that's in our real world, but I like when they have things like a diner that, kind of is designed closer to our world, and for me, I like the atmosphere of the scene, and I think it's a fun little scene. And, then he goes into the archives, and I like the look of the archive room, and the lady he's talking to in some of the comics, and so the one I can't remember her name. She actually has a really cool name, but he's talking to her in the archive room. She is so badass in some of the comics when they go into her story, but she's actually a Jedi herself. The lady he's talking to about, Camino. I couldn't think of the planet name. So he's trying to find Camino, and he's talking to this lady, and I actually like the design of the archive room as well. And then we get into he goes and talks to Yoda, and you know what? Okay, here's a couple things. I don't mind after watching this again, the fact that Jedi can't procreate, or they don't love, or they don't procreate, because they can procreate if they fall in love, but they're not supposed to. And I felt pretty okay with that, because you know what, it stays consistent to how this whole entire saga ended up, because people bitch, and it's a different conversation, so I'm not trying to start the conversation. I'm just saying, like, we know that people bitch with the sequel trilogy that, oh, anybody could be a Jedi now, kind of thing. Like, well, if you watch this movie, yeah, because if Jedi aren't having kids, then not everybody has to be a part of a bloodline then, right? And that kind of what George is getting at with the Force, like, and Jedi and all that. And, like, I do trust George's knowledge on this. He might not be the best director, but I can understand where he was coming from on, making, it kind of makes sense. Like, it did, like, I don't know why every Jedi has to necessarily be from another Jedi. You know what I mean? Because nobody ever said that's how it had to be. So I know a lot of people like to pick on it, but I don't mind the idea that Jedi, don't fall in love or don't have, children. I don't mind it. I actually think it adds a really interesting element. While the chemistry is not there, I think it adds an interesting element story-wise.
Mystery.
Yeah, and it adds an interesting element story-wise to Anakin and Padme, because it's like, okay, they are struggling. Here's kind of where the tension is. Even though they don't play the scenes well, it does throw in the tension a little bit. Anyway, so then he gets anyway, what made me think of that was all the younglings that Yoda was training. And I actually liked that scene a lot. I thought it was cool to see Yoda training all the younglings. And then moving into
Real quick, I thought it was funny.
Go ahead.
He goes in and he puts that little ball and it expands the universe, and it opens and there's just dots all around this room, and Obi-Wan immediately goes, "This is where it's supposed to be." And I'm like, how do you know that? It's like me going into a planetarium and just naming a moon. Like,
exactly. Anakin at this point too, I think this, we'll get into the intercut stuff here in a minute, but a little bit later actually, but the Anakin at this point, he takes Padme back to her own planet, right? And he's supposed to be looking after her, and it's
he's
all kind
wearing
of
a dirty bed sheet.
Well,
when he leaves and they get on the ship, I specifically remember saying, what is he wearing? It looks like he's wearing a stained bed sheet.
I have a lot of problems with the wardrobe in this film. Like, a lot.
It's like you're in love with this girl. Don't wear your old poop stained bed sheets. Come on, try a little, Annie.
Oh my god, what was that fucking joke? It's so bad. Don't worry, we have R2 with us. They both start laughing. They, like, Padme laughs at that like it's the funniest joke she's ever heard in her entire life. Like, it's like, maybe not a lot of people like treat her with humor. I mean, clearly we saw what she had to deal with the Phantom Menace. I mean, everybody talks like robots in the political world, evidently, in Star Wars. But I mean, still, it was just like, I mean, goddamn, the way she laughed at that joke, I was like, has nobody told you a joke before? Like, It was delivered terribly. It's not funny. But she thought it was the funniest goddamn thing on the planet. So there's that.
Maybe that was George's way of building chemistry. He's like, maybe if I show that she's laughing really hard at this stupid joke, people will think, oh, see, she likes him. It's like, no, we just think she's kind of dumb for laughing at a dumb joke.
It's a bad joke. It was terrible. As much as I love R2, boy oh boy. And then you have so that, yeah, we got to get into this. They're standing in that gazebo type thing, which you kind of already touched on, but
Gazebo.
let me talk about my problems here, because again, so she laughs at a dumb joke, and then, I mean, Anakin meets, you know, her people and all that, but then they're standing in this gazebo, and we still are failing to have any kind of chemistry going on here. And what ends up happening in return for that is that Anakin says a terrible line again, the sand thing, which
Big surprise.
I don't know why he doesn't like sand, but okay. I don't know if it's the character that doesn't like sand, if it's George Lucas that didn't like sand and wanted this character to not like sand. But I don't understand how George Lucas can't like sand, because it's literally in all over that original Star Wars movie. But anyway.
You know why he put that line in there? Why I think he did?
Why?
I think he was just trying to set up the next line to try and make them look like a love interest. Because the very next line is that stupid thing where he's like, he talks about sand being coarse and rough and getting everywhere. And then he's like, unlike you, you're soft and warm. And it's like, really, dude? We just talked about this. It's creepy, man. Restraining order. Back off. He probably put that sand line in there just because he wanted some sort of love interest line. And I'm like, George, brother, it's not working, man. It's forced. It's creepy. It's weird. And then he's like rubbing on her arm and like rubbing on her back really lightly. And my problem with that is there was nothing that led up to it that really even hinted that she was interested. He just says this and starts rubbing on her. So as I'm watching it, it's like making me uncomfortable. I'm like, there have been no physical or emotional or verbal cues that she's okay with this.
Yeah.
I'm like, Anakin's about to get me too'd. No
kidding. But I gotta give my boy some credit. He gets the girl, man. I mean, she gives him a kiss. I mean,
I will say one positive thing.
Yeah.
I think it's when they're walking in to talk to her people.
Yeah.
They're talking about how when she was queen and she served her 2 terms and she thought she was too young, and she was talking about taking the position in the Senate, and he talks about how he's glad she took it. That was one of the most organic conversations that they actually had in this movie.
Yeah,
and this is gonna prove my point of what I was saying earlier about how I wish their screen time was doubled so that we could have more of this, because my issue with that love interest was that every time they're on screen, George shoves it down your throat that it's a love interest, but there's nothing that builds up to it, that builds up to you feeling like they might be a love interest other than Anakin being obsessed with it.
Yeah.
This was one of the best conversations between them because Anakin wasn't being creepy and there was no love at all. It was just her talking about how she thought she was too young to be a queen, and she was very real and very raw in her emotions, and he was supportive and was like, I'm glad you took this job in the Senate. So I thought, this feels organic. We need more of this. Anyway, you look like you're about to explode.
No. I agree with you 100% on that. Like, but I was going to bring up another point another scene that, as far as the dialogue went, that I actually thought was really working very well for them was the dinner table scene where he's floating the whatever they were eating. It looked like a pear, but he's floating he's floating that thing across the table, and I actually think like the lines feel like organic, flirty lines. You know what I mean? And he's like,
they CGI'd the fruit.
They did.
Like, come on. Did you notice when she took a bite of it? It looked so weird.
Oh yeah.
It just like went and just like it was. I was like, I cannot believe they just CGI'd that. Could she not like actually take a bite of something? Why is that so hard? It like
Right.
just she went and like didn't even touch it, and it just sort of melted into her mouth. I'm
No
like, that's
kidding.
awful.
Yeah, I agree. But I actually thought the dialogue about like if Master Obi-Wan saw me doing this, he'd be very upset. Like I thought that was all kind of fun and kind of adorable. Like I got that. Like if they had spent more time doing that kind of stuff, it would have worked. But we just cut from that. The problem is we cut straight from that to I can't breathe. You know that terrible scene where she's wearing like I don't know
Breathe
what
when
the
I'm not with you.
She's wearing this attire, by the way, that looks like she's just ready to have sex.
She's wearing a tire.
Very good.
Wearing a tire.
That was about as good as we have R2 with us. But she's wearing this top that like it looks like like her bazoingas are like a jiggle away from falling out in this top. That was the point I was trying to make. And,
It's like it was like the leather looking one.
yeah. And then
Yeah,
like,
that was an interesting choice for outfits, because I don't feel like she wore anything like that the rest of the movie.
yeah, it fell off color, and yet the whole point that she's trying to make in this scene is that she's trying to convince Anakin she's not interested, but you know she's whatever,
Right?
You know, and it felt off color, and the I mean. It just we went from like some pretty good scenes with these two, or even like when he's riding the witchmajiggers on her planet, like even that stuff is kind of fun. Like,
He's riding the witchmajiggers.
you know what I'm
the
talking
ticks.
about?
They look like giant ticks.
Yeah. Thank
I
you.
literally
They
call
do
them
look like giant
ticks
ticks.
because I don't know
Yeah.
what they're called, but they look like giant ticks that
Yeah.
have been feeding for like a month.
Right, exactly. But he's riding on
He
them,
gets stomped on.
yeah, but it's fun. I'm okay with developing the relationship that way, but we get so little of it. And then the two of them are talking politics, which I'd be fine with, which by the way, I gotta say, this is so dumb. Like this line of dialogue where he's talking about, oh, I wish we could all get together and you know, the politicians can sit down and, you know, have a conversation about this stuff, and then Padme's like, well, that's what we do.
That's how it works.
Exactly. It's like,
and then he's like, but they don't agree. Can't we just make them agree? And she's like, that's a dictator. And he's like, yeah, that's fine. It's like, no, it's not.
that dialogue is so clunky in the scene. It's
Totally negates everything that he just said. He wants it to be a jury of peers all talking and understanding each other. He goes from that straight to like Kim Jong-un. Like, nope, I'm going to tell you what to like, what to not like, and I'm going to shove it down your throat if you don't agree with me.
It's like the clunkiest dialogue ever. And it's so fucking bad. That said, like, I understand the idea that of the dictatorship thing, because I get that it's kind of like a foreshadow to Vader.
A foreshadow.
Like, I get that, but it was just a little too early in the storyline to go for it, I think, at this point, especially when you get a really cool foreshadow scene later on.
I like more of those type of scenes because they don't have anything to do with their relationship, or
that's true,
him loving her or anything. And that is the sole problem, is that, okay, look, in real life, when you fall in love with a person, you don't fall in love with a person because you are continually talking about being obsessed with them or feeding them pickup lines at every chance. When do you fall in love with a person? When you hang out, when you have real conversation, when you just exist around each other and you get to know the person. That's the problem with this movie between them, is that there isn't any real time to
Yeah.
exist. It's always him feeding her lines and
Yeah.
forcing a love interest when we need more lines, like when they're walking and talking about how when she served as a queen she was too young, or him sharing his weird political opinions, or whatever, or him getting stomped on by a giant tick, like and he actually laughed and had real emotions.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, he's actually laughing. Like, that's real emotion. I like that. That's okay.
Yeah, I was okay with that too. Exactly. That was the point I wanted to bring up. As much as I love though the look of this planet, I could praise the look and designs of the environments all day in these movies, because I actually think it's some of the stuff that works best. I mean, it's just like we just get so many scenes here. It's like we're getting something good, then it's cut to something bad, getting something good, cut to something bad. I just felt like that was the whole Anakin Padme dynamic, but the chemistry is really never present in the movie. Oh, it's choppy as hell. And then you're wiping to Obi-Wan every so often, which I like the Obi-Wan storyline. That's why I'm trying to save it and get through the bad stuff here first. I know the wiping.
We're not wiping Obi-Wan. We're wiping to Obi-Wan, not wiping Obi-Wan.
I know, I got that. But I was, I gotta say, I realized, because I was gonna make a point to try to find a pilot in this movie who had a super tiny head, just so I could figure out who the hell Pilot Smallhead was. I realized that there's not a single space battle in this movie, is there really? It's all pretty much, except for the Obi-Wan Jango thing, there's not like a real space battle in this movie, which I realized, which I found to be pretty interesting. Let's cut over to Obi-Wan, unless you had something more to say about the Anakin Padme thing here.
The only other thing I had wrote down was that I thought it was funny that when they were talking to her people, they were asking for his opinion because he is a Jedi, and she immediately interrupted and said, "Oh, he's just a Padawan learner." And he's like,
"Excuse me."
It was like, that was like the biggest backhand in the world. Another example of they're supposed to be starting to fall in love at this point, and George, you just served him the biggest backhand to show that she is not interested, and we're supposed to believe that they're in love. Like, that hurts. Like, oh no, he's not a Jedi, he's just a Padawan, and he's in the background like, oh.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
excuse
to
me.
Kamino.
To Kamino. Boy, the Lost Planet. So finally, Obi-Wan arrives to Kamino. That's another thing. Like, I like the Kamino stuff, but it took him forever to get there, didn't it? I mean, it really seemed like it did, but he finally gets to Kamino. This is probably, in this movie, my favorite planet that we see, favorite environment. Like, I think all the Kamino stuff it looks on point. Like, it's all pretty cool. I like the water surrounding the towers and shit. But he goes into this white room that's so fucking white, even on my TV, that like it literally burnt my eyes. Like, you gotta squint when you're looking in this room, but it's cool. I like it. It reminds me of some of my favorite sci-fi movies and shit. You know what I mean? Like, so I got
it's
what
like
he was
walking
going
into
for.
the Oscars. Everything's white.
Yeah, exactly. It's true though.
I had to work in a little Oscar backhand there.
Nah, hey guys, they're getting their inclusivity together now. Hopefully, we'll be good.
Get their crap together.
Yeah, bad joke, but anyway, good joke, but bad joke. I could see some people being offended. Let's move on. Let's move into this. So he's talking to these aliens whose necks are as long as giraffes, but I mean, like, they really are. But I actually really
huge.
I dug these things because it's like, this planet is supposed to be so far out into the outer regions that things there are going to look pretty foreign, you know? And I like, that's another thing I loved about the design, the direction here. The thing I hate is, you know, they take him to meet Jango. And I actually think that the way the whole clone storyline was mapped out in this movie is really good. Like, it makes sense. It doesn't feel, like it's just something that was thrown in. They actually mapped out the clone storyline pretty much from the beginning of the movie, or from the beginning that we start to see the clones, it's mapped out really well. And the way that it's all explained isn't like over exposition, not under exposition. I mean, it's just perfect. And he gets over to Jango Fett. Oh my gosh! And then we see Boba Fett, and it's so. This kid actor, another kid example of a kid actor George Lucas had hired. You know what
Where
it
are
was
they
like?
finding these kids?
You know what it was like though? It was like he got so criticized for giving Jake Lloyd too many lines. So he was like, "Oh, I better pull back on the amount of lines that I'm gonna give this kid." And so he gives this kid, "Is your father home?" Yeah. He goes, "Yeah." May we see him? Sure. It's the 2 lines. Yeah, sure.
And he doesn't even execute it well, which is what's funny about it. It's like, how do you act badly with 2 words?
George was like, "I'll show them." I'm gonna hire a kid and give him 2 lines, 2 words, not even lines, 2 words. 2 syllables is all this kid's getting this time. I'll show them I can direct the movie. But no, epic fail here. Epic fail, man. Like, Dad home? Yeah. May we see him? Sure. So he goes in and he meets Jango Fett, and I like this actor that plays Jango Fett, by the way. Like, I actually think he's pretty cool. Like, especially after, you know, because all the clones are modeled after him, you know, and so, like, especially after going into the Clone Wars animated series and seeing, like, how well they did consistently trying to mimic the voice of this actor, you know what I mean? So it's pretty cool. So yeah, I really dig the way that Jango Fett, you know, speaks. I love Jango Fett's, like, Mandalorian armor that he wears. I think that's always awesome to see. You know, but I actually love the confrontation here between Obi-Wan and Jango Fett, you know what I mean? Like, Obi-Wan knows something's up here, you know?
There's obviously a problem, and you know that because literally no human beings on this planet look each other straight in the eyeballs without breaking eye contact, and they're like a foot from each other's faces.
Yeah.
And everything they say almost feels sarcastic.
Yeah.
You're like, there's a problem here.
It's like the way, like, 2 different members of the mafia from 2 different families would speak to each other, right? Like it's that sarcastic politeness, you know what I mean?
It's really passive aggressive.
Yeah, hell yeah. Like, I love the way that they speak to each other here, and it's so badass. And then we get into this is my favorite sequence in the movie, is Jango going after Obi-Wan and the lightsaber fight. Like, this is so exciting. You know, like, I actually think it looks good. Something that you got to try out is, I actually got this recommendation from a buddy of mine, is he told me to watch this scene in black and white. For some reason, it enhances it, like the look of it, and it looks kind of cool. Almost like George was going for these movies to be in black and white in a way. You know what I mean? Because he's so inspired by that, like, noir type stuff. You know what I mean? In the first place. So it's like,
I could see how watching it in black and white would actually enhance
yeah,
it as a movie in general, because the coloring they use for these movies are so, like, bright and in your face, and it almost enhances the fact that you know you're watching CGI.
Right.
All of the bright color choices, they're really harsh. They're not super cinematic looking. They're kind of weird looking. So I could see how watching it in black and white would give it a totally different feel.
Exactly. And, like, the darker areas in the movie actually look really dark as well to me, you know? So it's like, it really does, it just enhances it and enhances what it's going for. It's actually really cool to watch this sequence in particular in black and white. But anyway, but yeah, it's just such a cool scene. What do you think of, in general, just like the Obi-Wan Jango Fett stuff?
I thought their confrontation was funny because they made such intense eye contact. I was thinking, like, wow, they're like nobody makes this kind of contact when they're looking at each other. outside of that, something funny that I thought of when he first walks in and he's talking to the long necks, the Q-tip people,
Yeah.
whatever they're called, talking to the Q-tip people, and they raise the chairs from the ceiling. The first thing that popped into my head: you ever go to like a Japanese restaurant and they serve you soup? It totally looks like the type of spoons that they use for soup.
Oh
They're
yeah.
like those really
It did,
deep,
didn't
like
it?
ladly looking spoons. I was like, that's a soup spoon.
Yeah.
Sitting in a soup spoon. Anyway,
true.
outside of that, their fight's cool. I mean, it's pretty cool. The stunts, a lot of times the stunts in this movie, they look kind of weird. They almost
Sometimes
look fake.
Yeah.
They look like they're CGI'd in, or like they're fake or something. They're kind of bizarre looking.
I don't know. I think there might be one or two that definitely are. I've always felt for the most part that I think like the actors actually really dedicated themselves to the stunt work here. Like it might not have been like the best choreographed stunt work, but like I do feel like the actors did dedicate themselves to doing it, you know. I mean, nothing on the level of the Maul Obi-Wan fight or the Maul Qui-Gon Obi-Wan fight, but like it's definitely none of the action here is on that level. But it's at least like I don't know. I think what I like behind the Obi-Wan Jango Fett stuff is it's very like it has some meaning behind it. You know what I mean? Like you look at the Maul Obi-Wan Qui-Gon fight. While it's one of the best choreographed fights and one of the best looking fights in the whole thing, there's not really a lot of depth behind the fight. You know what I mean? Like, and to hear in this sequence, I just feel like there's depth behind the fight. Like, we understand exactly the problem going on with these two. You know what I mean? In my opinion. And why it's why it's such a problem. But I don't know. That's just
the gravity of the situation.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then you get into like, even better, we go into the asteroid field sequence, which the seismic charges are amazing. The sound design behind those things, like, incredible. I love the seismic charges. I mean, they're just awesome and
so cool sounding.
Oh man, amazing. Talk about some of the best sound design, man. I mean, that's one thing that they never failed to do in these movies. Is the sound design is always top notch.
Ben Burtt, man, he is just the sound design OG.
Exactly.
He's so good.
Exactly. Yeah, it's incredible.
And they messed around and didn't even use him for the new movies. Freaking.
Yeah.
That makes me mad. Like, that legitimately makes me mad. Like, he's like the godfather of modern sound design.
Yeah.
And like Star Wars was his thing. He's so well known for it. And you start making new movies and you decide, yeah, we're not going to use the godfather of sound design.
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. So. That sucks. But we're not doing a review on those new ones. I think that they still did well with the sound design on the new ones. But okay, anyway,
right. I was just salty that they didn't include him because I like him.
Oh yeah, no, I understand, man. Like. I would even say like some of the sound design in these prequels are better than the new ones, even though they did a good job on it. Like there was like you didn't have anything similar to the seismic charges, and I have a couple gripes even with the sequels, like to some of the ways the lightsabers sound when they ignite and stuff, as opposed to these. Anyway, so yeah, the asteroid field thing is pretty cool. I actually really dug this. I mean, it's just so nice to get this like good storyline interlaced with a lot of these, not so great storylines that are going on, and the fact that we're finally go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say this is the point in the movie where I start to feel like the pacing is slowing down and getting okay.
Right.
It's things are starting to settle down a little bit, and part of that is because they start slowing down on cramming the Padme Anakin relationship. That's part of the reason why the pacing feels so off at the beginning. But yeah, right here when we start that battle between Obi-Wan and Jango Fett, like that's when stuff starts slowing down and you start feeling like, okay, I understand what's happening in this movie.
Yeah, definitely. And we're finally seeing clones in a movie that's called Attack of the Clones. God damn it. So we got, I mean, seriously, right? Is it's such a dumb title for the movie when you really break it down. Not only is it a super cheesy ass title, but I understand it came from Lucas's days of watching things like the Flash Gordon serials and things, and I understand that. But on the other hand, like, you call it Attack of the Clones, and they attack for like the last 15 minutes of the movie, and then other than that,
it wasn't really an attack. It was almost a defense, really. I mean, I know they went to them, but it was kind of more of a defense. The reason why they used them, they make it sound like Attack of the Clones, like these clones were made and they were attacked by them. It was like, no, they actually used them for defensive purposes.
I agree, man. I think also, wait a minute. So right around here, though, too, we start to get into Anakin's visions, right, of his mother.
Yeah.
By the way,
this is when we start getting into the meat and potatoes.
Hell yeah. And also, like, one of the things here too is, like, I always praise this shot when Anakin is standing out on the balcony. That shot that Lucas got of that was cool. Like, it was just so pretty all the way across the board. So Padme walks out, and this is where I actually thought Ed Christensen did good. Not speaking moments, but like his physical acting, like the looks on his faces are actually really good here. He's not so creeper. He's actually, you could tell that he's troubled, in this moment. And he looks like a Jedi that would be pondering, upon something, and that he was troubled by. And so they, excuse me. So they, so he tells her, I got to go to Tatooine, and I actually like what's being done here because it is conflict between what with what Anakin was originally supposed to do. And so, like, I understood the trouble, that was going on, or the conflict in his mind of having to go, and Padme was like, I'm going with you. And this is the dumb line, though, was like, I'm sorry, I have no other choice. It's like, you kind of do have a choice, though. I mean, that's like, I don't know, whatever. And I was Go ahead.
One of the things that drove me nuts about just a little bit before this was when he was talking about the kiss between them that he couldn't stop thinking about.
Oh,
that
right,
was specifically
right.
when I started thinking about, man, the pacing of this movie is just like total garbage.
Because I agree.
It was like, he was like, I'm haunted by that kiss. I can't stop thinking about it. And it's like, but it was like 5 minutes ago. Yeah. You can't stop thinking about it. You haven't even had time to think about it. And that's what I'm talking about with the pacing, the way they cut their love scenes up so much, and they last like this long and then cut and give you something important and then come back and give you another little sliver, and it feels so forced and it feels so jammed together that he's like, I'm haunted by that kiss. And I'm like, it happened 5 minutes ago, bro. Chill. You haven't even had time to be haunted about it yet.
No, definitely, man. Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. So he takes her to Tatooine. And by the way, I love the line where Obi-Wan's paging in, or he's trying to page him. And he's just like, where in the blazes are they? Or whatever he said. It cracks me up.
And he's like, I hope nothing happened to him. And then he immediately goes from I hope nothing happened to them to realizing he's on a different planet and going, I told him to stay there.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I thought you were worried about him. Now you're just mad at him.
Oh, Obi-Wan's pissed, man. He's super pissed in this movie.
Yeah. He keeps it together pretty well, though.
He does.
Considering.
Yeah, no. I mean, if I had to deal with this kid, Jesus Christ. Pissed me off.
He's a handful.
So he goes back. He goes into he goes to Tatooine, and or they go to Tatooine. Then they meet up Watto, which I was okay with Watto making another appearance in this movie. But again, with the wardrobe, man, I mean, it was like he couldn't find a hat to block the sun, so he was like, fuck it, I'm gonna grab a piece of china from Grandma's antique china cabinet and just put it on his head. Like, I don't know what he was doing.
It looks like a World War II or a World War I helmet.
It does. It definitely does. Or like
you said in your first review, you said it looked like a flying saucer.
Oh, right. The flying saucer thing.
It
Exactly.
literally does.
Yeah.
And he's got like that weird scruff. He looks like a washed up retired 70s rocker. He's like if Steven Tyler really let himself go for a while.
Yeah. Dude, I'd have been walking up to him being like, slave business a little slow these days, Watto? Like, what's going on with you, bud? Because seriously, like, remember Watto? He was like one of the most powerful people in Tatooine in the first movie.
He
what
was
happened?
on it, dude.
Yeah.
And now he's trying to fix his own stuff and he's struggling and he's frustrated. And it's like, what are you doing, dude?
Could he not get
He's
a new
clearly
slave?
hurting because he was like trying to get Anakin to help him like settle some business. Annie,
little Annie, it is you.
got some people that owe me some money.
Watto's Italian, man. Whoever voiced him has to be.
He totally is.
Yeah.
Dude, if he was a human, he would have his shirt unbuttoned down to here and he'd be wearing a gold chain.
Honestly, that would have made more sense to me. Given the, character, not this fucking cracked place.
Be like, you come to me to find your mother.
That's pretty much what he does, though.
He's got a cat.
Seriously. Watto, you might as well have just given him a cat to stroke with the way he's looking. What a doofus. But anyway, so I don't understand why. I don't know. Whatever. I think George wanted to show like, oh, the big bad of the first one, he failed now. Like he's in a bad spot. It's like, well, we didn't hate Watto in the first one. Like you didn't have to be that rough on him. But so he fixes his part for Watto. He's so focused. Where is she? And Watto's like, and it's not badass the way Christian Bale says in Dark Knight. It's just, oh, where is she? But
Where's Rachel? Where is she?
Your impression of Christian Bale right there is like Bale with a dick in his throat or something. Like it's not coming off right.
Rated X Dark Knight.
Oh man, but anyway.
So they go, they find,
yes, you get me back
interrogate Watto, and what happens after they leave there? They go. Oh yeah,
well, they meet Owen. They meet Owen.
Yeah,
played by Joel Edgerton in this part. Which I buy Joel Edgerton as Uncle Owen. I don't know why they didn't give Aunt Beru a single line in this movie, or maybe they did, but like it was like very minimal. Which I would have liked to hear her speak. I would have liked a little more time with these guys, honestly, just because they're so integral to Luke's story in the original, right? Like,
right.
So I thought a little more time would have done well. Oh, meanwhile, back at the Senate, by the way, Jar Jar Binks is taking Padme's job. Why you put this bozo in charge makes no sense whatsoever. But okay, Ian McDiarmid meanwhile back in the Senate, Jar Jar's giving Palpatine emergency powers. He has Supreme Chancellor.
They're like, but who would possibly do that? Padme's gone; she can't do it. And Jar Jar's like, I'll do it. Like, thanks, Jar Jar, for screwing everything up.
Yeah, no kidding. He really did. It's just like, oh my god. So everything that happened that's bad in the entire Skywalker saga, in all 9 movies, everything that happened is all because of Jar Jar Binks. Am I getting that right?
Yeah, essentially because he decided, because Palpatine was like, I need Padme for this, but she's gone, which he was clearly like, it was like a hint because Jar Jar was in the room, I feel like. So Jar Jar's like, well, I want to feel important. I'll do it. I'll introduce the idea. I can do it. And now because of him, now we get freaking Order 66, wipe out all the Jedis, and it's a domino that just keeps falling over. If Jar Jar wouldn't have done it, if he would have just calmed his flappy little ears down, everything would have been different. Or maybe not. Maybe somebody else would have done it. They just needed somebody to propose it in the Senate or vote on it.
For the sake of being a fan of these movies, I'm going to have to convince myself, even though it's nowhere to be seen in this film, that somehow Palpatine used his Force powers to convince Jar Jar to do what he'd done. Either that or used his Force powers to convince them to put Jar Jar in charge because he knew he would screw up. I cannot have this any other way. So we're going to go with that.
I think he just manipulated him because he put him in a position to where he was showing that he was basically being like, Padme likes me. I've got a good relationship with Padme. If she were here, she would do this for me. But, oh, it's so sad that she's not here. And, Jar Jar, holds Padme to a high regard. So he's thinking in his mind, well, if she would do it, but she's not here, like, I can do it. I'll do this for him. Like, he's thinking he's important, like he's doing something really good. So really, it's just manipulative is what it is, which is it's what Palpatine's good at.
Oh, obviously.
He manipulates people all the time.
I'm going to hope that's what happened, is that he manipulated Jar Jar once Jar Jar was in the role that he was in. Either that, or an even cooler thing is that Jar Jar's been, a puppet of Palpatine's this entire time and just has never given it away, which has been a popular theory amongst fans, and I like that. I'm okay with that. I know Jar Jar was supposed to have a bigger role in these movies, essentially, but no, that never happened, which I understand why. So anyway, where were we? So Anakin's on Tatooine. He has having visions of his mother. He's like, I gotta go find her. He understands that she's over with the Tusken Raiders. The scene of Anakin on the speeder is like amazing. By the way, that whole shot of him going down the speeder, and he got the dun 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 dun. That's amazing. He's going down.
I want to say his face makes me laugh because it's like kind of cheesy, like it's that stereotypical like angry I'm going into battle look.
Yeah. I don't know.
The shot's good looking, and then you see his face and he's just like
I'll be honest, I didn't pay that much attention. I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, maybe I'll look next time.
I laughed when I saw it.
I'll have to look next time. I didn't pay that much attention to the face expression, but I just love the shot on Tatooine. I just think that's awesome. He's talking to the Jawa to try to figure out where his mother was, which actually makes a lot of sense because in the Phantom Menace novelization, like, Anakin actually became close with the Jawas, when he was a slave boy. He worked with them all the time and they would give him information about where to find things. So I actually like that Lucas incorporated that in the movie. So he's going around and he finally finds his mother, and this scene is very, very good. I mean, we got Shmi Skywalker back with that actress that I like that plays her well. And then it's dramatic, but Hayden Christensen's acting is not good here. Like, the idea and the concept and the score for John Williams is amazing in the moment, but Hayden Christensen's acting unfortunately is not good. He doesn't do dramatic very well. But we got Shmi Skywalker carrying most of the scene, and then I love, like, because it's such a sad score that Williams is playing, but then it switches into like this horror score, like, it sounds so horrifying, and then you just see
spot on. You should do a cover. You should do a vocal cover.
Yeah, I'm sure it was amazing. But but then Anakin, he gets this look of rage that looks like he's taking a shit, and I love it. He does, man. He just and then he's like, he goes out there, and I wish they would have shown more. I understand that Lucas wants kids to watch these movies, but I wish we would have seen more of these guys get slaughtered along the way. It
these
just would have been
movies,
cooler.
we can just say right now, these movies would have been 20,000 times better if they were rated R.
Yeah,
Way better.
it's true. Especially if
Because
he's...
I mean, Anakin's story is dark.
Yeah.
Like they could have done some really dark stuff, and I wish they would have.
Yeah,
If I
agree,
could turn
man.
back time, I'd whisper in George Lucas's ear and be like, "Make it rated R."
Right, if you're going to go down this path and you're already going to incorporate the politics and you're going to try to go for this very Game of Thrones type thing that you're doing, then make it R, man. Like I know that the original Star Wars were for kids, but the people that were watching them grew up now, and here we are. So he could have made it rated R. I agree with this storyline in particular, because it's dark. He's slaughtering the Sand People, and then he goes back to Tatooine. He's telling Padme what's going on, and I can't stand this little temper tantrum he's thrown. I thought earlier you were mentioning, though, and I kind of want to hear your thought on this, actually, that you think that Hayden Christensen's acting is good here.
This is actually, it's my favorite part that he acts in this entire movie.
Okay.
It's also one of my favorite moments of the movie, period.
Interesting. Go into that.
I personally think that he conveyed emotion really well, because look, Anakin, as we talked about before, I know I was joking about him needing therapy, but 100% dead serious. Anakin has serious issues. Like he is messed up, and he clearly has a lot of this darkness inside him. He's got this shroud of darkness over him, and he goes to find his mom, hoping he's going to find her. And what does he see? He finds her like on her last breaths, all beaten and torn and tattered. And he slaughters people. And then he talks about, I didn't just kill the men, I killed the women, and I killed the children. And he says it with anger in his voice, but at the same time, he says it like he knows what he just did. And he's like, he was angry when he said it, and he was angry when he did it, but he said it in a way to where he was like, on the inside, like, I can't believe I just did this. He knew that it was bad, and he plays it in such a psychopathic way where to me, when I watch it, I see this is actually what Anakin's character is about. He is in complete inner turmoil. He's in total darkness. He keeps doing these bad things, and his mind keeps going to these bad places, and he doesn't know why, and he knows it's bad, but he can't help it. And it's like his mind is being torn in two. So when it comes out in this emotion, it comes out as being this like really big, almost psychotic, over the top acting. But I feel like it's really accurate. And I think Padme does a really good job. When she reacts, she's almost like she doesn't know what to do. She's like shocked, but at the same time, he drops down and like puts his hands on his head like he's clearly hurting, and she comes over to console him because she knows that something's wrong. So I felt like this was the first time where we see Anakin mentally completely falling apart.
Okay. I want you to know that a lot of your points are very, very good here. Or majority of what you just said, I actually agree with, because, listen, I mean, yeah, the sentiment of Anakin's downfall here, or and the fact that he's doing these bad things and he can't control that, I love that as an idea. And I actually think, for the most part, the execution of that idea is in the dialogue. Not all of it in the moment, but for the most part, I think it's in the dialogue. I also think that, yes, Natalie Portman reacts very well. And I think that the way that John Williams interlaced the Darth Vader theme in the moment definitely elevates the moment a lot, and it does something for me. And I think Hayden Christensen did the best that he could in this moment. I just don't think that the acting was quite there for me. I don't think the performance really did what the scene needed to do entirely, but for the most part, it is one of the better scenes in the movie because of the idea behind it and what George was going for. And I do agree with 90% of what you're saying, but for me, listening to him throw this temper tantrum, it was like, God damn it, if it was any other actor right here, probably would have worked.
I think you should watch it again.
Okay. I will.
I think you should. I honestly think you should, because I never thought Hayden Christensen's acting had any redeeming qualities in these movies, literally up until I watched that scene today.
Okay.
And I thought, that's interesting. I don't remember feeling that way about it, because, you know, I've been crapping on him this entire review. This entire time we've been talking about him, I've been crapping on him the whole time. So I was expecting to crap on him more when he got emotional, but for some reason that didn't happen. And the reason why is because, you know, you talk about John Williams puts that ominous feeling in the score.
Oh, definitely,
and the
man.
lighting
it's amazing.
and the lighting is ominous, and
definitely.
everything is kind of ominous. And he's talking about how he just slaughtered women and children, and it's very dark, it's very ominous, and you know, like, this is bad. And this is the first time where you start feeling a darkness and almost a fear and a tension. But the reason why I like his acting here is because even though it feels so dark and ominous and evil, and you feel like you should almost be scared of him, like he's a complete psycho, he twists the acting in a way to where he shows just the right amount of emotion to where for some reason you feel bad for him. You're like, he just slaughtered all these innocent people, but for some reason I feel bad for him because he's got like a tear in his eye when he's saying it. And it's specifically when he's talking about when he turns his head, and I previously thought it was cheesy, but I didn't think about that this time. When he turns his head and he's like, I didn't just kill the men, the women, and the children. And he has like a quiver in his voice and like a tear in his eye. And Padme's like, oh shoot. Like, so there was something about it that I watched it this time that I thought about it differently. So I don't know, maybe if you watch it again and you try to frame it a little differently, maybe you'll still feel the same way, but for some reason it hit me differently this time.
It's interesting, you know. I mean, like, and listen, the feeling to me is there. Like, the feeling is there for sure. Like the darkness, like you were saying, the way it's lit, like it captures the feeling. But I just felt like they had to do a lot of work. Like John Williams' score has to land in tone with the way that Hayden Christensen is delivering it. Because if it doesn't, then I don't feel like the performance comes across to where you get the feeling. Because if you're just stripping the performance away, what I start to hear is the women and the children too. Like, it just doesn't come off as that to me. But when John Williams adds his score to the scene and the moments, I definitely feel like what Williams had to do was to match a tone to match the music to fit the tone of what the performance is doing. And I think that's mainly what makes
part of movie
work.
making. I mean, that's part of building a scene. If you strip everything away from any scene, there are very few scenes in movies from very few actors that are going to stand alone by themselves, unless we're talking about like freaking Viola Davis in Fences, where she's like crying and snot's coming out of her nose. Like, that's a different level.
Well, that's my point. That's my point.
Most movies, they're built to where the score is to support the feel. They're building 100%. It. And why I feel like it was a success is because they went into this scene knowing that they're trying to make the audience feel a specific way. They knew that they were supposed to make the audience feel fear. They were supposed to make the audience feel almost like dread. They wanted to, but mainly they wanted the audience to feel fearful, but they also wanted the audience to feel bad for him because he's broken. And ultimately, at least when I watched it this time, I actually felt that. I remember specifically thinking, I feel sorry for him. And I didn't think the women and children line sounded whiny at all this time, because it looked like he was on the verge of crying when he said it, which was what I noticed this time. And what I thought was intriguing about it was that it should have felt whiny compared to how I usually watched it in the past, but I've, studying it, or maybe I'm older and I'm looking at it in a different way.
Maybe
this time I thought, look, if I had just tried to find my mother, who's been missing this whole time, I clearly have psychological issues. I
Right.
just found her. She died in my arms. I just slaughtered a bunch of innocent people for the first time in my life. I am responsible for a bunch of innocent deaths. I lost my mother. And now he's literally fixing things to try and keep his mind off of it. He said, life's so
Okay.
much more simple when you're fixing things. He's trying to keep his mind out of a dark place. And as soon as he starts talking about it, he just breaks down. I mean, you'd be pretty messed up.
I agree.
There would be some weird emotion behind it. So I don't know. If you feel the way you feel, and you know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder, so you feel how you feel and I feel how I feel. But if you watch it again, you know, try and frame it a little differently and think of it like this, because for some reason I liked it this time.
Oh yeah, and as soon as we're done with the podcast, I'm actually going to put the scene on because now I'm so damn curious. I want to try to look for what you saw in the performance. I'm just saying, for me, and even as just like a small dialogue critique for the script, I would have, you know, because the way you were saying it just a second ago was you were saying not just the men, but the women and the children. For a dialogue, from a screenwriting point of view, I would say, you know, instead of, they should have said it like that, but he had to add the "to" line, and I thought that came off clunky too. I just said "to." But I thought that came off clunky as well. I just would have said, and the women and the children, and I would have cut it there because I actually think that sounds better from a screenwriting perspective. I'm just saying, like, it's such a pivotal moment in Anakin's story, and I think that the film did a good job with the tone. The only thing I want to say is that, like, if you had had a performer, this could have came off even better than it actually was. But don't get me wrong, if you had a better performer, it would have came off better than it actually was. But don't get me wrong when I say that the film does do a good job here at, you know, making sure that the tone is right. So that
I
said,
think you could almost always find an actor that will do it better. I mean, obviously.
Yeah.
And I obviously am not a Hayden Christensen fan.
right.
I don't have a good track record of being in support of him.
No, you
in
don't.
This movie,
this is
so
why it's surprising.
I
to
just right.
Yeah.
And it's surprising to me too. It's, believe me, it's just as surprising
Okay.
to me as it is to you, because
right.
I've been dogging on him for years. But no, I thought he did a good job in this scene, and I thought it did what it was supposed to do. Do I think somebody else could go in there and do better? Absolutely. I mean, there's a lot of really freaking good actors that could carry that scene by themselves.
Yeah.
But I thought, for everything it was, I thought that it was good. And with the women and children line, when you watch it, just think of it trying to get one thing out of it. Try and pick up on the sadness in his voice when he says it, because that's what made me think differently about it.
Okay.
Was that when he said it, for some reason, like, looking at his eyes, like, you can feel heartbreak in his voice, even though he says it kind of angrily and hastily. It's the way he visually acts in that scene when he says that specific line, for some reason you pick up on this heartbreak, and that's why it made me feel like, oh, I actually feel bad for him. And normally I hate this character, but I actually feel bad because he's going through some stuff right now.
Yeah.
So
yeah, man, I'm gonna rewatch this as soon as we're done with the podcast. But that makes me curious, though. I'm very curious. So take me into the next thing. How do you feel about his performance when they're burying Shmi at the moment?
I mean, I think it's a different dynamic. I don't think it's anything to write home about.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly what he says, but Hayden Christensen, I think, does well when his character is in complete emotional turmoil, complete distress, when he is acting psychopathic, when there is this weird cross between him being angry and being upset. I think that's when he does the best. I think he does terribly when he's acting like a normal human being. I think he does terribly when he's trying to be loving. I think he does terribly when he's complaining. I think he generally does terribly, except for when he is having Darth Vader moments, when he is starting to get psychopathic. It's those little hints, you know, like in the third one when he looks up at Obi-Wan and he yells, "I hate you."
Right.
And it's like, you're like, oh, I feel that in my soul. Like that dude's psycho. Like, he's got hate in his eyes. Like,
Yeah.
I think that's what plays best with Hayden Christensen's
Interesting.
acting. And at times it feels over the top, but when you think about it, the character is over the top. I mean, the dude is a complete psycho. He has got serious mental issues.
Well, here's the other thing too, and I'm going to dive into that too, is maybe, and might be another reason I have a problem with a lot of the way that he plays the character in these movies, is because it's so inconsistent with how they portray Anakin in the Clone Wars series, the animated series, and I'm such a big fan of that. And to me, like Matt Lana, who voices Anakin in that series, that's my Anakin. You know what I mean? And I feel like that Anakin just makes more sense. Like, because when you hear Matt Lana and the way he does emotion, it's so different. It's so funny in the Clone Wars animated series. They got all these voice actors that can mimic like what the actors sound like in these movies, except for Anakin. For some reason, they had to cast somebody that sounded so different than Hayden Christensen.
Well, I wonder why.
Right, exactly. And so to me, I became so attached to that Anakin, and like at this juncture in my life, the way I feel about Star Wars after seeing the Clone Wars, and it's just like Matt Lana to me became my Anakin, you know what I mean? And so like when I hear Hayden Christensen deliver a lot of this stuff, to me it's like it's not Anakin to me anymore, you know what I mean? Maybe as a kid I probably didn't pay attention, but
I will say that, we talked about last time, I didn't watch the Clone Wars in its entirety. I think I watched the first one, maybe 2 seasons, and that was a long time ago, like when they were first coming out. So it's been a long time, so I don't remember his character, so I can't speak to that. But I will say, in my mind, what do I think of Anakin as a character? Who do I envision, or what do I envision? And when I think of Anakin as a character, if I were directing these prequel movies, if I was telling Anakin's story, I would portray Anakin as being a complete bipolar psychopath.
Interesting.
I would put somebody completely dynamic in that part to play him. I would put, talk about what's his face, the guy that plays in Split. Like, I would play somebody that can do a range like that, because his character is somebody that he's supposed to be good. He's training to be a Jedi, and he claims that he wants to be a powerful Jedi so that he can keep people from dying. And he does have this heart, and as a child he clearly had this heart, and he is a good person at his core, and he has love to give, and he does love Padme, but he has this weird unspeakable evil that's inside him that is slowly consuming his life, that can't be explained. And the only way I can explain it is what you see in a complete psychopath. Like in real life, somebody that is manipulative, somebody that has multiple personality disorder, somebody that knows dark psychology, knows how to manipulate people, the type of people that will lure you into their house and kill you and then cry about it later, then they're like, I don't know what I've done. Like somebody that knows they're broken but doesn't know how to help themselves. That's how I see Anakin as a character evolving. He goes from being this caring, pure person who wants to be a Jedi and wants to be powerful so that he can keep his loved ones from dying, to being the very thing that hurts his loved ones. And he doesn't know why, and he can't control it. And so I see a complete psychopath playing Anakin. I don't want to see a neutral character. I don't want to see a normal character. If there was an Anakin standalone, I would put somebody really dynamic in it.
I got you. I would agree with you. Like, okay, like say they got like a James McAvoy or Joaquin Phoenix would have been great casting around this time. Maybe they should have went that route. But maybe they got that person to do it, and like and then it was played out very, very well. You know what I mean? And they went that route. And then upon doing the Clone Wars series, which bridges 2 and 3 together, committed to that, it would have been amazing. Probably would have been the even better route. I'm just saying that in the Clone Wars series, they just gave me something else that was also still very cool with the Anakin character, and I enjoyed that. Probably would have been a better route, but I just felt like that, the direction of Anakin is always just, it's been so inconsistent that at this point, I got more time to spend with him in the Clone Wars. And even Matt Lana playing Anakin at first is super cheesy. So maybe if Hayden Christensen had more time to, mess around with this character, maybe even his acting would have gotten better. Say he had a TV series to do it on. Because like I said, Matt Lana started out kind of cheesy too, in my opinion, but he got so much better throughout the series at voicing him. Anyway, we got to move into this. So let's see. So Obi-Wan's paging in. He's going. He's still wondering where the hell Anakin's at. Anakin's, so they're a little late to the rescue because Obi-Wan's gotten captured at this point, and he's, so then they go to save Obi-Wan, and I like this moment. If you're Obi-Wan wanted you to protect me if I'm going to go help Obi-Wan. I thought this was a good line. You better come with me. It's another one of those clever George Lucas lines.
I thought it was a boss move.
It was.
On Padme's part.
It was cool.
I thought, oh yeah, she's a boss right now. She's like, okay, then I'm going to go, and it's your job to protect me, so you have to go, and she just leaves.
Padme is an underrated character. I recommend not only the Clone Wars series, but Queen Shadow, the book by E.K. Johnston, which gives like right before this movie, or not maybe right before, but like when Padme's kind of leaving the role of being Queen Amidala, you know what I mean? So it gives like a lot of the time in there in that book, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty interesting read. But anyway, so yeah, it was a really boss move by Padme, and I actually like the music cue here. It kind of feels very Star Warsy, and you get the din din din. There I go, trying to reprise John Williams' score again. Thank you very much.
You just got to cover it, man.
I'm here all week.
Vocal cover.
Here all week. But the anyway, so they're flying off. They're going to what's this planet? Geonosis. They're going to Geonosis to go get Obi-Wan. And we skipped the Dooku stuff, by the way, the introduction to Dooku. I want to ask you, because when Dooku captures Obi-Wan, what do you think of Dooku as a character?
Neutral.
Really? I might be in the minority when I say, like, I really dig him, and I like the way that Christopher Lee played him. I do dig him.
I don't have a problem with him. I don't think he's a super standout character either. My only complaint about Dooku in general in this series was that I feel like we didn't get enough of him. I feel like he was a little downplayed.
I agree. And I'm going to tell you something that's going to piss you off that I've heard multiple times from different people. But first, let me give my opinion on Dooku and why I actually really like him. I like the way that he approaches Obi-Wan in this very like political sense, or not political, but like diplomatic manner. Like, oh, no, this is a mistake. You know what I mean? And then, like, I love just the way he plays it. I think he's kind of cool, man. I like his classy kind of look too, that he has going on too. But anyway, and I always thought his lightsaber was cool as a kid. He had the curved hilt. Like, I don't know. That still is badass to me. But excuse me. So what I was going to say, though, that really pisses you off, and this is the thing I don't like about Dooku, is because I've heard this multiple times from multiple people that it was supposed to be Maul in this movie and not Dooku. And that Lucas pussied out on it for some reason at last minute. How's that make you feel?
It makes me feel cheated.
I've heard a couple times.
It makes me want to deliver some more flaming bags of poop.
Yeah, the rumors
straight
are
to
out
George
there, man.
Lucas's doorstep.
The rumors.
I mean, honestly, if you would have put him in this position, look, I say it all the time. If you would have actually brought Darth Maul back in the movie series and really done something with his character along the lines of his actual story, it would have completely changed how these movies felt, because his storyline is too interesting. He's too badass of a character. It obviously couldn't undo the bad writing, the bad pacing, the bad effects, and the bad acting, but it would have added some extra badassery.
Hell yeah. Dude, imagine that, though. Like, imagine that twist if this was, like, the reveal that Maul was back, right? Like, can you imagine that?
Imagine him and Yoda fighting.
Yeah. But like
That would be a cool scene.
think about how much oh hell yeah, dude. And think about how much sense it makes. Think about what I was saying earlier about the Sam Jackson line. It feels weird when he says, oh, Count Dooku wouldn't do that. Because I think initially they were going to go the route of Count Dooku wouldn't have done that. And it was going to be Maul. You know what I mean? I think they were going to try to plant it in you that it was Count Dooku. Just imagine the reveal if this was Maul sitting at that table, you know, orchestrating all this shit. Oh my God, that would have killed. And imagine if they even like kept him alive till like the end of Revenge of the Sith. Now I'm getting super nerdy. And it would have been Yoda fighting not only Palpatine, but Maul on top of that. Can you imagine that scene? Holy shit.
That would be cool.
That would be amazing. Sorry, I was getting super.
I mean,
nerdy there,
I'm a sucker for some Darth Maul choreography in a fight scene.
Shit,
so,
that would have been cool, man.
I mean, I'm telling you, I mean, off on a different topic, but I need a Darth Maul movie.
Yeah,
a whole movie dedicated just to Darth Maul, maybe even two. That's really all I want. Like there really is. I can't think of anything that I want in Star Wars more than a standalone Darth Maul project.
Here's a question.
That's literally all I want.
Here's a question. Just because it's been a debate lately among Star Wars fans because we're getting all this stuff on Disney Plus. Say you can get. Okay, would you choose between? You had a choice between a Maul movie and a Maul live action series. Which one would you take?
Depends on the budget and how long it's going to be, I guess.
Yeah.
A movie will likely have a bigger budget. It'll probably be way more action packed.
Not necessarily.
But a TV series would have a lot more story. It would have a lot more depth.
Yeah.
But I mean, generally speaking, when you watch a movie, the pacing has to be differently and the budget is usually pretty extreme. So when there is action, usually it feels really big. It feels really in your face. And a TV show, because it's stretched out, there's a lot more story there. So I feel like they would feel like two completely different things, but I think they would both deliver. But I don't know. I would take either one, really.
Yeah. I don't know. For me, it'd be TV series all day or streaming series all day. As much as I would like to watch Star Wars in the theater, I just think that the TV series are the way to go right now. Because I really want that Maul. You've seen. This is gonna sound bad because you're sitting here doing a Star Wars review, and so I'm sorry if this makes you sound bad, but
are you gonna talk about Star Trek?
No.
I thought you were gonna talk about Star Trek. I'm sorry, this is bad for a Star Wars review, but I have to bring up Star Trek, and all the viewers log out.
No. I just don't want to out you here because last time you and I spoke that you hadn't watched Solo, so I was gonna ask if you'd finally watched it.
Solo,
Star Wars.
Dude, I watched Solo a long time ago.
Okay, because last time you and I spoke and I asked you, you hadn't seen it yet, so that's why I was making sure you'd seen it at this point.
I watched Solo. I don't even know when. It's been over a year though.
Oh, well, no, because my thing is like I would love a Maul and Kira storyline, because if you see where Maul ends up in Rebels. At the beginning of the Rebels series, a live-action Maul and Kira storyline would be really cool because it would lead into why he ends up where he ends up in Rebels. But I'll let you watch Rebels at a different time. I won't tell you because it's cool, and it's a really cool reveal. But if you see where he ends up in Rebels, you wonder. It's such a mystery why he ended up where he ended up, and you feel like it has something to do with Kira. Anyway, we are getting so off track with Darth Maul, but listen. So Anakin and Padme, they go into.
It's important though.
Oh yeah, I agree. I love Maul, man. Dude, when it comes to Maul, like I know you might not think so, but I really am probably as big of a fan of Maul as you are. Like he's amazing, dude. Like especially knowing what happens to him, you know, in between this shit.
I don't even care what they do. All I know is I want something from Darth Maul, and every time they release something without giving me Darth Maul, I just get angry.
Yeah. At least they put him in Solo at all, though. I know it wasn't like a big thing, but you know,
that was a cool little Easter egg sort of thing. Like it was a cool moment.
it played
But,
so
like,
well
give
in
me
the theater.
something.
It played so well with the audience in the theater. Nobody had any idea that he was going to be in that.
Oh,
Man,
I remember everybody was talking about it.
Yeah.
Everybody I knew was talking about it. Like, did you see Solo? Did you see that moment? There's a moment you're gonna like.
Yeah. Well, I remember telling you that myself. Like, dude, just watch it. Go see it. Like, I know you don't think
my
you care
cousin
about
was telling me the same thing.
Yeah, I was like, I know you don't think you're going to care about a Han Solo movie, but this moment, man, you're going to love it. I'm not going to tell you because I don't want to spoil it because I want you to be surprised. But anyway, so Anakin and Padme, they go to rescue Obi-Wan, and Anakin's getting his arms stuck in 10 things, and whatever. This is fine. This stuff is fine. I'm very neutral on these moments here. Then they get out to Obi-Wan, and this is the best line in the whole movie. Well, we came to rescue you. Good job.
Thanks for filling me in, pal.
Obi-Wan's
Hey.
delivery is
Thanks,
amazing.
Shakespeare.
Oh my god, Ewan McGregor's delivery is
Oh, and then
incredible.
we get to the first. I've got a bad feeling about this.
Oh, we do. You're right.
Yep.
Oh, my other favorite Ewan McGregor line here, when he's all worried about Padme, she seems to be on top of things, and she's just climbing up on top of that pole. It's like, what a dad joke, but that's what Obi-Wan's good for. So
Totally.
Anyway, so it's just so consistent with the negotiations. Well, sure. Like, it's just I love that shit. But anyway, so Obi-Wan, so this big, okay, so Mace Windu walking down the tunnel is actually pretty cool, by the way, when all this shit's going on with the creatures. Mace Windu walking down the tunnel, I like the shot of it, but then when he goes up to him and he does this party's over. Like, I don't know how to feel about that so much, but it's like, what a weird line. It's like, it's a Sam Jackson line, and you know he fucking improv that shit, but it's just like, why'd you keep that?
It just you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of it reminds me of the first scene of Kindergarten Cop when Arnold Schwarzenegger goes in and blows everybody away, and the guy's like, "Who the hell are you?" And he goes, "I'm the potty poopa," and he blows him away with a shotgun.
It is one of those it's definitely one of those types of lines. Like, it really kind of is better delivered by Arnold for sure, but
now that's something we could explore. What if Arnold Schwarzenegger played him?
Mace? Arnold could play anybody and I'd be okay.
I want to see a version of the prequels where Arnold plays every character.
You know what's very odd, dude? Like, when you say something like that, like, because of the tone of these prequels and the way that they came off anyway, it's like,
it would be hilarious.
well, Arnold might have been a saving grace for these things when you think about it. Because nobody gets mad when Arnold delivers cheesy dialogue. You just don't.
It's part of the genre.
So Star Wars fans would have been crazy if Arnold was a Jedi in there. Would you be able to have gotten him to do it at the time? Probably not. But, you know, who knows? Could have been cool.
I don't know.
Could have been cool.
Well, he was preparing to run for governor at that time.
Yeah, that's true.
So maybe not. Actually,
Yeah.
I think he was governor at that time.
Yeah, you're right. Well, missed
The
opportunities
government,
anyway. Yeah, but this is Star Wars. He might have accepted the offer, even being governor.
I saw a picture recently that made me laugh way too hard, and it was literally a picture of the Backstreet Boys with Arnold Schwarzenegger's face, like, pasted really well, might I add, pasted on all of their faces. So it was literally every single Backstreet Boy, and it said the "I'll be Backstreet Boys." I'll send it to you later. You're gonna love it.
That's amazing, man. Oh boy, send that to me for sure. I'd love to see it. So
Anyway,
yeah, good job, and we're into the fight, and then party's over, and
party's over.
Exactly. Then the big Jedi battle breaks down. Now I love this. I love the shot of excuse me, Yoda coming down with the ship with all the clones, and I really like what they were going for right there. Like, I thought that was pretty cool. Because like Yoda, like it was like they were kind of against the idea of the clone army at first, but then they were like, shit, we're gonna need this, you know what I mean? And Yoda just fuck it, we don't have
He's
a
like,
choice.
okay.
Yeah.
Around the corner.
He goes, around the survivors perimeter create. I'm like, that's a stretch. That's a sentence.
It really is.
Around the survivors perimeter create.
It's hard to bitch though, because it's Yoda. It's like the Arnold thing we were just saying. It's like when Frank Oz is delivering Yoda's lines, you can't really be mad. It's like
I know.
It's a stretch.
I just remember thinking, hearing him say a couple lines during this part of the movie and going, wow, that sentence is a stretch.
Oh, it really is. It really is, man. It was maybe even too much dialogue for Yoda in the moment, but okay.
How do you feel about this battle, all in all?
I'm okay with the idea of it. I just think it could have been shot better.
The CGI, man.
Yeah.
There are a lot of moments in this scene that just look bad. They look like they didn't age well.
It didn't age well. You're right.
I agree. The idea of it is great. I do enjoy it as a whole. But like there were moments of the choreography where all the Jedi are fighting, and it's like there are some cool moments, but there are also moments that look really lazy, and like there are just people in the background just kind of standing there like, and you're like, oh, can you move a little, like do some flips or do something cool?
By the way, this is like one of the first scenes where we ever see Kit Fisto in these movies.
That's right.
And I have a friend, you're not going to believe this. I hate to call him out. I'm not going to say his name. But I just want to hear your opinion on this because, just because I want to show him this and I want to hear your opinion. His favorite Star Wars character is Kit Fisto.
I mean, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. I would ask why.
I did.
I would wonder, is it based on something else? Is it based on just these movies?
Dude,
what is it based on?
The only other time you see Kit Fisto, I think, in all of Star Wars canon, outside of maybe a children's book here and there, is in the Clone Wars animated series, and he gets like one episode in there. But
right, my question was, is there like a novelization somewhere that I don't know about that explains more of his character? Because I hear a lot of people that really like Kit Fisto as a character, and I kind of always have that same question. That's like, I don't really know much about him. Like, why?
I'm definitely gonna have to tell him that he's not the only one. Then, like, I don't know.
No, it's not the first time. I don't know about favorite character, but I have heard a lot of.
It's interesting.
I've heard a lot of people that I know, at least in the past, tell me like that they love Kit Fisto, and I'm like, I mean, the idea of him is cool, but I just don't know very much about him.
I was kind of giving him shit about it. Maybe I shouldn't, but like, because like, I don't know. I mean, he says that the reason why is he looks cool, but it's like, okay. But I whatever. But I mean, if you know a lot of people that think he's awesome, that's crazy. I mean, there are like 100 action figures of Kit Fisto out there, evidently, and my friend owns like every single one of them. Like, it's insanity.
He looks like a bug.
He does look like a bug.
It looks weird.
All right, well,
so, I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, then again, my favorite Star Wars character is R2-D2, and a lot of people think that I'm weird for that. For some
I don't know.
reason,
I understand that 100%.
But
He's not my favorite personally, but I understand it 100%. Like, R2 is like pivotal, man. You can't make these movies without him.
You know who also makes my top favorite characters list?
Who?
Is K2SO in Rogue One.
Oh, I love K2SO, man. Like, that's
and
like...
I hope that you plan on doing a review discussion about that movie, because that's one of my favorite Star Wars movies.
I will not do it without you, sir. That is, after Skywalker Saga, we can move right into that, actually. So, if you want
I'm excited to watch it again.
Yeah. By the way, I was going to ask you too, like, since we're here, what goal should we try to hit to do the holiday special? Like, what should we tell the audience to do in order to get us to do the holiday special together? Is there
Oh
a
my
price?
word.
Is there a price?
I don't know. I mean, there should probably be a price because I really don't want to watch it again.
Yeah, I think there should be a price, 100%. You're gonna have to
There
get
should
back
be.
to me.
I think they should pay us.
Tell me what ideas you have for that. If like we can get to like a certain amount of subscribers or likes or something like that on these, I don't know.
Like, if we can make like an hour and a half, 2 hour video just talking about the Christmas special, I'll be impressed.
Oh, there's a lot to unpack in that holiday special. A lot, and none of it's good.
We're gonna have to rewrite the whole thing.
Yeah. Holy shit. Anyway.
Somebody's smoking weed outside. That's what it's like to live in California, guys.
Does it really
Just part
smell
of
like
life.
weed everywhere though? You go?
Not everywhere, no, but like at nighttime, like if you live in an apartment, you're gonna smell it.
It's good.
Like,
The whiff's
people
gonna
smoke
come.
it.
Okay.
It's not like the Midwest where it's like a really big deal. Like here, people generally like don't talk about it. It's just like a part of life.
Part of the day. Time for
Yeah,
my
I mean it is,
afternoon
and
joint.
a lot of people use it like actually medicinally. So it's like there isn't a stigma around it. It's really bizarre. It's like you can go to the boardwalk and see an old guy smoking a joint on the beach, and it's like nobody cares. He's minding his own business.
Interesting.
It's different.
Yeah.
It's different than the Midwest, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Anyway.
I agree. Be an adjustment, that's for sure. So we're going to well, let's just get into this Dooku stuff too. I wanted to ask you so Anakin and Obi-Wan, they go to fight Dooku. How do you feel about the lightsaber duel? Take out Yoda for now, because we're gonna get into that too. Take the Yoda versus Dooku. Anakin, Obi-Wan, Dooku. How do you feel about it?
There are moments where I like it.
I agree.
There are moments where, like, I remember specifically the moment where Anakin like dives in to save Obi-Wan. That stunt looked really weird. It looked weird.
Yeah.
It looked bizarre. I was like, is that CGI? Is it? I don't know what it is.
Yeah. I rank this as the weakest lightsaber duel in the entire saga, to be honest with you.
It's pretty weak.
Yeah.
You know, okay, the coolest part about it was there's a very brief part where there are very close camera shots on Dooku and Anakin, and it's very dark, and all you can see is the light from
neon.
their lightsabers moving across their face, and those couple shots are really cool. They look awesome, and I would have liked it if honestly it were darker and they focused a little more on the lighting and the cinematography to like set that mood and play with light a little bit, because all in all, with the choreography and just the scene in general, it was a little weak.
Yeah. Well, yeah, the choreography wasn't great. The only other shot I would talk about too is there was a brief shot where they have them in like a wide shot, doing this too. So I did like the brief wide that they were doing it, but the rest of this fight is like the weakest thing I've ever seen. It's pivotal, I guess, because it shows that Anakin lost his first limb here. So I guess in that way it's kind of pivotal, but like even that shot of, he cuts the limb and just pushes him back really quick is still kind of awkward to me. And yeah, I don't know.
To be fair, Dooku is an old dude, so it's like he's really not going to put his body on the line.
No.
And it felt like that too. Yeah. It felt like we're filming with an old guy and we can't do a lot of stunts with him. That's kind of what it felt like.
Yeah.
Whereas like Yoda's old, but he's not a real person, so you don't really have limitations.
Yeah, that's true. Like, okay, so see, like, I hate the look of CGI Yoda, but like when he walks in here and he starts doing this shit with his lightsaber, I understand why they had to CGI him, because you can't have a puppet swinging a lightsaber around like this. It's just not gonna happen, right? I get like if you're gonna do
The
this,
strings
okay.
would get all sorts of tangled.
Well, it was kind of like we were saying in the Phantom Menace review. Like maybe they could have done it to where they use CGI in moderation, but I wonder. Yeah, probably would have looked a lot different in contrast when you're having these CGI scenes with Yoda fighting with the lightsaber and then using the puppet every other time. So I don't know.
I feel like everybody asks this question, but it always has to be addressed.
Sure.
The fact that Yoda is darn near crippled and all of a sudden he's an Olympic gymnast.
Yes. Why does he use the cane?
What's going on with that?
Why does he have the cane indeed, sir? I'm not quite
And
sure.
the greatest part about it is when the fight's over, after he's just freaking he stumbles back over to pick up his cane, and you're like, you ain't fooling anybody. We just saw you. Like, you're punking all of us right now. Yoda is a hustler.
Yeah, man. I
think he does it so that people do stuff for him? So he's like, I'm old, feel sorry for me. Can you go get me my drink? Like, but he's actually like super fit.
Oh man, that'd be a dick move.
He's just lazy.
It's possible.
He's just really lazy.
It's possible. Be a dick move, but yeah, I could see it. I mean, he's got. I mean, it would have made more sense if he wasn't walking with the cane in these prequels, you know? Like, it just, you know, they could have not had that, but whatever. That had to be a part of it for some reason. So he fights...
It's just bizarre.
Dude, Yoda, this fight is terrible too, man. Like, Yoda's flopping around every which way here, and it doesn't work. I love the sound he makes when he launches to go after him. What? This is a terrible scene. It really is, man. It's just like, I don't know, man. Like, the only thing I like about the scene is when he pulls down the like the pipeline and like, you know, tries to crush Anakin and Obi-Wan with it, and then like Yoda catches that, you know. And I also enjoy like the Force lightning and then Yoda catching that in his hand, because that's dope. But like the fight itself is terrible. It's really, really bad. So anyway, so there's that going on in this, and then we get into well, pretty much the ending, which we kind of just rush into. Oh, this is something we do have to bring up. Is definitely the fact that they, which I like, that they snuck in the Death Star plans in this. Like, it's our first little glimpse of the Death Star. I actually thought this was quite brilliant, and it made a lot of sense. I mean, you know at this point he's definitely working for Palpatine, and he's like indefinitely, right? And so like because they were kind of talking about, I think a little earlier at the table, our master's plans, and you know, get the plans, and then like it just reveals that it was the Death Star, this project that they were going to be working on. So I thought that was a really nice little touch, and it makes sense in the timeline that they would at least have just the little hologram blueprint of it and not, you know, have designed yet. So that was cool.
I mean, just think about how long the thing would take to build.
Yeah,
I mean,
man.
it's huge.
Exactly.
It would take forever.
I almost
and they obviously weren't using the smartest engineers, so
Yeah.
it would take even longer.
Yeah, every time you bring up those damn engineers, I want to have the clerks conversation, but you know, probably would last too long. But anyway, so we so Yoda, you know, gathers up his clones, and they're taking off, and then Dooku goes the other way, and like it does, man. Like I know for a fact I said this the last time I did a review on this movie, for the channel, but like I remember, like, by the time you like get to the ending of this, you know, what does Yoda say? Like, begin the Clone Wars have, or something like that. It doesn't this movie just feel like it was a commercial for that fucking series, you know? Like, to me, because it's like now like even now in the year 2006, tune into the Clone Wars animated series to actually see the clones attack this time, and to see, you know, the depth of the story. It's like, god damn, you know? But don't get me wrong, I don't regret having the Clone Wars series. It's amazing. It's wonderful. Some of my favorite Star Wars is the Clone Wars animated series, but anyway, so then Anakin and Padme get married, and that's that. How do you feel about this ending?
I feel okay. I am just gonna keep harping on Anakin and Padme. The marriage is just like the pacing of their relationship is so bad. Yeah. So bad. They just all of a sudden get married. Oh, I was also gonna bring up that she finally confesses her love for him before they go out. And I felt like
so bad.
Really? Now?
It's so
weird.
bad.
Just weird placement of stuff. It's just I want to shake George Lucas's head.
Yeah. Listen, man.
Okay, what were you gonna bring up? You looked like you had something good.
Well, exactly what you love confession. I wanted to make sure we brought that up, so that was exactly what I was gonna say.
It was weird.
Yeah. Just the way he structured this love story into what actually could have been an actually pretty cool story, the way he just shoved this thing in there and interlaced it just did not work at all, man. And just, oh god, man,
I don't think giving them more time would save Hayden Christensen's acting, but I think giving them more time would make him come off less weird at times. If they would have expanded and made the love story a little more organic and given them more time to relate and get to know each other, I feel like the perception of his character would have changed at least a little bit. The acting was still bad, but I think it would have at least changed the perception of how his character came off. And so just bad move. If there's anything that comes from this review, it's just that Anakin and Padme, everything about that was bad. Yeah. Everything. It was just bad.
I mean, it might sound obvious, but like after rewatching these, it's just my genuine thought is, what if George had just come up with these stories and passed these movies to somebody else to direct? You know what I mean? Just make up the stories. Yeah, be the guy, the creative. Because I think George Lucas, again, storyteller. George Lucas' storyteller is amazing. He's unbelievable, man. Like, the stuff he comes up with is unreal. But if you just given the control of the direction to somebody else, I think that these would have turned out incredible, man. I mean, to somebody who was really skilled at directing, these types of films. I mean, I always think of, like Ridley Scott, you know what I mean, doing these movies, or fuck, man, can you imagine James Cameron did one of these? Like, how cool that would have been with these stories, man. I actually think would have done really well with something like this.
You see, the problem is the originals, they come out very early in time, when storytelling was different, technology was different, right. Everything was different, right. And you're trying to make this new concept. It's so very new, and you want it to appeal to a certain group of people and a lot of people. And so George has this original idea that's really cool that, families can even go see, but it's new. It's kind of out there. It's something to explore. But as time goes on, movie making evolved. Our movies got a lot more diverse. They got a lot deeper. They got a lot more disturbed in some ways. So it's like, by this time, what's the direction Star Wars should have gone? It should have gone darker. It should have been darker. These movies feel like they're for children, and they shouldn't have been for children. They should have been for the adults that watched the originals that are now all grown up. They should have been for adults, and they don't feel that way.
Oh, listen, man. I mean, it all comes down to direction, which, again, I do feel like this movie had direction, and it does feel like he was trying to maybe appeal more to the adults in this one, because there aren't as many kiddie moments in this movie as there was in Phantom Menace. You know what I mean? He toned down Jar Jar. He tried to, he had the dark moment of Anakin having his tantrum. You know what I mean? Which I don't want to say tantrum in a bad way, but because, like I said, the feel of the scene I actually found to be very good here this time.
He threw several tantrums in this movie.
Yeah. sure, he toned down the politics in this film too, but when he was doing politics, they were good in this movie. The politics worked pretty much for the most part in this one. So it was, you were talking about that like real natural conversation they were all having at, Padme's, palace and everything. So it was just like, for me, it felt so unbalanced, and the things that we should have spent more time with, we should have spent more time with. I mean, there's really no other way to put it, and there was direction in this movie overall, though. I do enjoy the clone storyline. I hate that it had to end before the Clone Wars, because we didn't really get to see a Clones Attack and Attack of the Clones. But overall, I like most of it, and I actually think that a lot of the acting here is good, but then you had it interlaced with this love story. I'm going to say that this movie, for me, like, I'm super neutral on it at this point. I don't dislike this movie, but I don't really necessarily like it either. It's just okay. Like, I find the movie overall to be okay. Like, and unlike Phantom Menace, where I actually just really don't like that movie, after you and I went back over it again, God, that movie sucks. Like, this one is like, I don't hate that movie, but it sucks, man. And this one, for sure, is definitely, I don't know, man. How do you feel? Do you like this better than the Phantom Menace, or do you like the Phantom Menace better? Because you had a lot of gripes with this one.
Man, it's hard for me to make that decision. I will say I probably like this one better than the Phantom Menace, I will surprisingly say. But that is because a lot of stuff is happening in this movie, and even though there is a lot wrong with it, it still feels more entertaining to watch because there is a lot happening and it's building to lead somewhere.
Oh, I agree with that too.
That's the reason why. But the episode 1 was episode 1, it had its moments that were really shining, that were really good. There were several really awesome moments in episode 1. But overall, it had the same sort of pacing issues. It had the same writing issues. It still had acting issues. There just wasn't as much action and storyline for it to be considered as entertaining to me as episode 2. But something I wanted to say was the thing that makes this trilogy, the thing that makes you go back to watch it, at least for me, is a complete paradox. It makes no sense, because one of the biggest issues with this series is Hayden Christensen. He is one of the biggest issues with this series, with this trilogy. It is an issue. That character, the writing for the character, the acting of the character, both with Hayden Christensen and Jake Lloyd, it's just bad across the board. But ironically enough, at least me, and I think a lot of people are the same, because this is kind of what the movies are about. Why do we keep turning them on? Because we are wanting to watch the evolution of Anakin, because we want to see Darth Vader happen. We want to see what leads up to that. And it's really, that's why I say it's a paradox. It makes no sense, because he is part of the reason why these movies are so bad. And yet he's also the reason why we keep watching, because we want to see how the character turns into Darth Vader. So it's a very strange feeling, because that's why I like these movies. I want to see his character evolve, even though it's not always done very well.
Dude, you want to talk about, again, man, you got to get on this Clone Wars, man. You want to talk about Anakin evolving. That's where they dive into it to me, but more so than these movies.
I will watch it. That's on the top of my to watch list for sure.
Awesome.
It's just one of those things that, like, you have something to watch and you're just like, You can't get yourself to start it,
Mhm.
but once you do start it, you know that you'll like blow through it.
Yeah, I don't know, man. The first 2 seasons are tough to blow through. Once you're through the first two, you'll definitely blow through that series 100%. But listen, guys, this one definitely took a lot longer than the Phantom Menace. There's more to unpack in this movie for sure. But hey, man, it's Star Wars. We love sitting here talking about it, and Adam, thanks again for doing this, man. It's really amazing.
My pleasure.
Yeah, and you know, I like that you took notes this time. I'm probably gonna definitely have to do that on this next one here. So we'll be back next
There
week.
was a lot of stuff to take notes for.
It's true, man. That's why I was so worried about doing this review today, but I think it went pretty well, is because I was tired last night and I had to do some other things for the channel and everything, and I was multitasking, but also really trying to focus, and I was a little afraid that I wasn't going to be able to pick up on everything that goes on in this movie, but you know, whatever. I mean, it worked. I liked it. I think the review went pretty smooth, and
We got it figured out.
you did. Anyway, man. So thank you for joining. Appreciate that. Oh, yeah. And as always, tell the people where they can find you and everything you're doing with the Red Eclectic.
Yeah, find me on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, whatever, man, at the Red Eclectic. That's
Yeah.
me. So all of your daily motivational, inspirational, personal growth needs, your boy.
Hell yeah, guys, and make sure you definitely do that, and I will put all his information in the description below. Of course, I have been your host, Don Martino, and thank you for joining today's review or discussion, if you will, of Star Wars Episode 2, Attack of the Clones. We will be next week with Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. Very excited to talk about that one and revisit that one. So it should be a lot of fun. Also, guys, like this video, hit that subscribe button, leave some feedback in the comment section as you always do. Thank you for participating in the chat for those of you that have been. And I've been Don Martino. I'll also be leaving my Twitter and Instagram in the description below, so be sure to follow me there. All right, guys, I will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.